This afternoon, and I want to be mindful that we have the Coast WRPI poster session this evening, and I want to make sure that the board and all of our guests have plenty of time to enjoy that. So with that, Trustee Day, if you'd convene the Committee on Finance, please.
Thank you, Chair Monville. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Committee on Finance to order. We have 5 public speakers this afternoon. Each will have 3 minutes to address the board. As I call your name, please come forward to the podium. Gloria Juarez, Courtney Yamagiwa, Jennifer Egan, Molly Talcott, and Cecil Kenton. Go ahead, feel free to come forward in any order.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chancellor White, the Board of Trustees, faculty, parents, friends. I spoke to you in this very room on January, and I speak to you today. My name is Gloria Juarez, and I'm a member of Students for Quality Education. Today, I came to thank you, Chancellor White, for being Prioritizer of the Year, to thank you for the sustainability model, to thank you for not taking into consideration our struggles. I quote Barack Obama, "We all came to college to find out where will my place be in history." As a servant in Rome, you know you would spend your life forced to build someone else's empire. But then America happened. A place where destiny was not a destination, but a journey to be shaped and remade by the people who had the gall, who had the temerity to believe that against all odds, they could form a more perfect union in this new frontier. I want you to take the time to think of how you have failed us. Instead of working together, you worked against us. We want to be free again. Help us build our way to freedom together. A 5% raise for our family, the faculty, is a start to respect. Free higher ed, as it was in the 60s, is the beginning of our dreams. Today, I am here to tell you what you already know. This isn't us. This isn't how our story ends, not in this country. America is a land of big dreams and hope. So let's dream. What if we made sure college was accessible to all? What if we walked up to a faculty and told them that their old working conditions wasn't coming back, but that now they had time to learn with us and be alive? It won't be easy, but it can be done. It can be our future. We need you. No one can meet these challenges. If you want it, it can be pretty easy for you to leave here today and forget about the students and the faculty. You can leave today having your allowances and nice suits, but I hope you don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again, my name is Courtney Yamagiwa, and I am a student at Cal State Long Beach. We, the students of the California State University system, have collectively created a list of demands in light of the financial sustainability model. We reject your assumption that the state will not fund our public institution. Part of the duty as a trustee is to ensure that all funds received are distributed fairly. We believe that charging students for administration is not the solution. We demand that you reject all tuition increases. We demand that you decrease the price of tuition for summer and winter courses. We demand that the CSU clearly and directly expose and publish the use of any and all funds received. We demand that the financial aid be available for summer and winter courses, comparable to regular term aid. We demand the elimination and opposition of all fees, both system-wide and campus-based. We demand that you give faculty a 5% increase. We demand that you hire a more diverse tenure-track faculty that is reflective of the students in all departments system-wide. We demand that you lower the cap on presidents and administrative salaries by 20%. We demand that you stop providing housing and car allowances for campus presidents and the chancellor of the CSU. We demand that you sustain and promote ethnic studies and the arts across all campuses. This includes allocating additional funding and additional full-time faculty to each department that appropriately reflects the community on each respective campus. We demand the fulfillment and implementation of each demand by the 2017-2018 school year. If our demands are not met by the 2017-2018 school year, we will be back with further action. We fight for equality and a quality education across the board, and we will not stop until our demands are met. Thank you.
Good afternoon and happy International Women's Day. I want to revisit something that happened the last time we convened here. I'm going to quote Cal State LA student Christian Torres at length. You see, he came to the BOT to represent the vision of thousands of students to you. He spoke brilliantly as Chancellor White eagerly ate his lunch and barely glanced in Christian's direction. So I'm going to repeat his words today. On January 26th, Christian told us this in part: to demand a free, public, quality education might be viewed as radical, but we believe it is just. Article 26 of the United Nations Charter declares everyone has the right to education, and it is time we assert this right. He went on, we, the students, have been consistently patronized by the BOT for our belief that education is a human right and that it should be free and accessible to all those who pursue it. We have been kept out of the decision-making process and forced to accept policies that we do not agree with and that do not support student success by any means. Cutbacks to our education and increases in student tuition and fees do not promote student success. They hinder our progress and it burdens our load. Any tuition and fee increases should be viewed as an assault and affront to our livelihood, our dignity, and our right to determine our future, end quote. You know, when Chancellor White came to Cal State LA in January, he began the hour by assuring us that he respects the bargaining team. But just inside that hour, he began to instead call us naysayers. But we on the faculty are not the naysayers here, nor are CSU students. It's those who lead quite comfortable lives who are the naysayers when it comes to making free higher education as a basic human right for all a reality in the state of California. And students have a strong intuition, as you can see, about the cynicism and the hypocrisy of their elders in power who have paid something close to nothing for higher education in the 1970s, yet who offer hollow alibis about the so-called new normal in higher education today that supposedly compels an annual increase in regressive taxes on students, most of whom are working class, first generation in their families to go to college, often first generation immigrants, and students of color. California is the 8th largest economy in the world. It has a gross state product of $2.3 trillion. And what stands in the way of Christians and many other students' vision of free higher education for all in California is nothing more than a lack of moral vision and a heavy dose of political cowardice on the part of Christians much better off than him elders. Today's youth-led movements, from the Black Lives Matter movement to yesterday's high school walkouts in Boston, to the work of the Dreamers and the Burners, are providing mounting evidence that students in the CSU and beyond are pushing boundaries in the face of their naysaying elders. And they aren't about to stop, as you can see. Unless you be tempted to think about them as starry-eyed kids, I'll remind you that folks like Christian, who just won a major award at Cal State LA, are serious students. They have studied education systems and the social movements that have built them in Germany, Chile, Brazil, Sweden, France. I could go on. Slovenia. Why can Slovenia offer free public higher education as a human right for all and the state of California cannot? The point is that our students know in their hearts, in their guts, that we can do better by them. And we on the faculty and we in CFA heartily agree. And so my heartfelt message to you, Board of Trustees, on International Women's Day, which was first celebrated in 1909 when the Ladies International Garment Workers Union struck in 1908 for labor rights and human rights. My question to you is, which side of history are you going to be on this question? Don't be out to lunch on this one. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cecil Canton, and I am Professor of Criminal Justice at Cal State Sacramento, Associate Vice President and Chair of the California Faculty Association's Council for Affirmative Action, and a member of the bargaining team. Last week in a forum at San Diego State, Chancellor White said that he sees a train wreck ahead. To what was he referring? That's how he described what will happen in the state's future unless the number of graduates with bachelor's degrees significantly increases. The California Faculty Association agrees with Chancellor White about the need to increase the number of graduates with bachelor's degrees. And we completely agree that there is a train wreck coming. Where we disagree with Chancellor White is when the train wreck is coming and why. The future of California is inexorably linked to the success of present and future generations of students who will benefit from instruction in the CSU. That instruction comes from the 26,000 faculty, librarians, counselors, and coaches who teach the students we need to graduate in order to forestall the Chancellor's self-described train wreck. While the CSU boasts of increasing the number of students it admits to the 23 campuses, it does not acknowledge that it has failed to increase the number of tenure-line faculty consistent with that growth on any campus. Instead, the CSU has grown the percentage of faculty who are temporary, including lecturers, to 60%. This is an increase of 24% since 2005. And yet, we lose about 20% of those temporary faculty every year. That level of instructional faculty churn is not sustainable. Members of the Board of Trustees, the train wreck is already upon us. And it is the students who suffer from your failure to see that it is you who have caused it. Since the year 2000, students' tuition has increased by 283%. 283%. Even though students are paying more than ever in tuition, they're getting less for their education. A vast body of research underscores the importance of faculty-to-student interaction as significant to student academic success. That means that students need more full-time faculty, not less, in order to graduate and help derail the train wreck to which the Chancellor refers. Because you will not act to ensure that the CSU has the faculty it needs to instruct and teach the students that California needs to graduate with bachelor's degrees. Because you will not act to reverse the downward trend in spending on direct instruction, the CSU's core academic mission. Because you will not act to protect our students' right to an economic future built upon the quality education. Because you will not act to curtail the use of exploited labor that harms and undermines the Academy's mission and goal of excellence in education. Because you will not act to safeguard the future integrity of the CSU, the California Association will act on behalf of our students, staff, and faculty, and to protect our university by striking on April 13th, 14th, 15th, 18th, and 19th. Please do not underestimate either our resolve or our commitment. Make no mistake, the train wreck is here. You've caused it. No justice, no labor peace.
Now, I'm sorry, I have to follow my esteemed colleague, Cecil Canton. As faculty, as you've heard, we stand with students against all and any fee increases. They are neither fair nor warranted. I cannot figure out for the life of me when the national dialogue is trending towards free public higher education, or at least debt-free public higher education. I don't understand why this body is running in the opposite direction. And while we're on the topic of sustainability, I assume, sustainability is a bit of a buzzword that can mean everything and nothing, but I assume that this report has something to do with sustaining our 23 campus university system into the future. Well, first of all, universities, if sustainable, don't suppress the rights of free speech and assembly of their faculty, staff, and students. We heard today from Vice Chancellor Lamb, who seems to be reiterating a message that went out via email on several campuses. Chancellor White says that he didn't write that recurring communication that was coming from president's offices, but I want to encourage the campus presidents in the room to please think before you copy and paste and send any emails that have a chilling effect on freedom of expression. And Vice Chancellor Lamb seemed to echo these emails, although Chancellor White said that he understood the nature of academic freedom well at the Academic Senate meeting. I'm not sure now which message to believe. I want to assure you, please take me very seriously about this, that CFA will do everything in our power to protect the rights of our faculty, as well as staff and students, and that includes their rights of free expression and assembly and their right to talk to any media outlet they choose. Sustainability also means being a good community partner. And here I am thinking of using union services such as hotels and contractors and using them consistently. The Chancellor's Office has consistently used non-union hotels and non-union venues and non-union vendors in ways that make them not good community partners. Unions enhance the earning power of both our students and our students' families. It is imperative for the CSU as a state agency to be a good community partner, and that would include not being the first in line for an exemption when cities pass new minimum wage legislation that would drive wages up. Those are the wages of your students and your students' parents. Lastly, we in CFA lobbied hard to get that additional augmentation of about approximately $100 million. And you have proven to be poor lobbying partners. I'm sure that under current conditions, many legislators will not want to pour more money into an institution that cannot keep its own house in order. So once again, I just want to reiterate, we need labor peace, and it begins with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe that concludes public comment. Today's consent agenda consists of the minutes from the January 26, 2016 committee meeting and 2 items. Would any committee member wish to remove any of the items from the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move it.
I have a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I'd like to now move on to our discussion agenda. Item 3 is an action item requesting conceptual approval of a public-private partnership mixed-use development project at California State University Fullerton. Executive Vice Chancellor Steve Relier, President Mildred Garcia, and Assistant Vice Chancellor for Financing, Treasury, and Risk Management, Robert Eaton, will present the item. Steve, would you please begin?
Thank you, Chair Day. Because there are several P3 projects that are part of this committee's agenda today, I'm just going to take a little time and provide some context. Starting with, as you recall at the last board meeting, we presented the recommendations of the draft report of the task force on a sustainable financial model for CSU. And one of those recommendations was to take a hard look at opportunities for partnerships with third parties that could leverage the assets of the campus. And a lot of times those assets are things like land and facilities and expertise to further the mission of the university. And we've got 3 examples in the agenda today. I'm going to ask for the next slide. See, there we go. Okay. So these public-private partnerships, you'll hear the acronym P3, but that's essentially what it is a public-private partnership. Although some of our campuses, these are really public-public partnerships. They're partnerships with other public agencies that have been very useful for the campus. But they do offer significant benefits for the university particularly in light of the significant constraints that we currently have on capital financing. As we were talking about earlier today, we just don't have the state of California providing us money for capital projects and very high need deferred maintenance projects. These projects, when structured appropriately, support and preserve the public nature of the university by providing new resources and by freeing up existing resources that can be used to serve our students directly or provide support services for students, faculty, and staff. The P3 projects are presented in compliance with our existing policies to provide the board with an early conceptual review, and that's what we have here today, early conceptual review, so that the campuses may move ahead with more specific development plans that will be brought back to the board later for action. As you will hear in the next 3 items for this Finance Committee, these P3 projects vary and have characteristics that are very unique to the 3 campuses. To varying degrees, each of the 3 projects identify specific revenue streams to support capital improvements and the delivery of mission-related benefits to each of the campuses. And now, on to the first of these, which is item 3 on the agenda, which requests conceptual approval to pursue a public-private partnership plan for the development of a mixed-use project, which is student-friendly housing, retail space, parking, and commercial space on auxiliary-owned property adjacent to the California State University Fullerton campus. President Millie Garcia will next brief you on how this project fits in with the campus mission, and that'll be followed by Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton, who will provide some additional information about this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to President Garcia.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Relier, and good afternoon. This project will directly further the university's academic mission and seeks to create and maintain an environment for learning that promotes respect for and appreciation of scholarship, freedom, human diversity, and the cultural mosaic of the city of Fullerton. College Park South development could provide multiple opportunities, including student housing, faculty and staff rental housing, very expensive in Orange County, so we want to lower those costs, possible commercial space for shops, restaurants, entertainment, social spaces, additional classrooms, offices, meeting rooms, mini auditorium, computer lab, research incubator space, parking, and improve the streetscape on and around College Park, especially to make it more pedestrian and bicycle friendly, with a strong focus on increasing connectivity to the rest of the campus. From the time Cal State Fullerton and the CSU Fullerton Auxiliary Services Corporation envisioned purchasing the College Park property in the year 2000, plans for developing the adjacent lot into something more than parking has been in discussion. By virtue of a 2003 Environmental Impact Report, the CSU has entitlement on the College Park site for 250 units of faculty staff housing, student housing for 390 residents, and a 1,200 space parking structure. With the proposed closure of Nutwood Avenue, which is in front of Cal State Fullerton and Hope International University, Commonwealth Avenue will truly become a gateway to the campus and provide a seamless transition from living to the learning environment of the university. In addition to supporting the university's core mission, this project will help Cal State Fullerton's efforts to enhance its visibility and its reputation with the city of Fullerton, especially if the college town concept moves forward. Today, I seek board approval to proceed with concept development for the project. As Mr. Eaton will describe, the College Park South development can be achieved through a public-private structure that avoids university debt, minimizes risk, and produces annual non-state revenues to assist with campus priorities. Thank you in advance for considering this project. I now will turn the presentation over to Mr. Robert Eaton to provide the details. Mr. Eaton?
Thank you, President Garcia. The proposed site for this mixed-use development is approximately 6.2 acres, located on property owned by CSU Fullerton Auxiliary Services Corporation. The development site is currently leased to the campus and used as surface parking with 833 spaces. There's also an office building at the north end of the campus, but this building is not part of the development proposed here today. A March 2015 market demand study analysis prepared by a third-party consulting firm supports the need for additional student housing at the campus. The campus anticipates entering into a ground lease with a private developer. No campus or auxiliary funds will be committed to the project, and the developer will be fully responsible for the financing, construction, and management of the project during the term of the lease. The ground lease will be structured to ensure that the campus receives rents based on the fair market value of the site at minimum. The developer will also be responsible for funding all costs associated with the environmental and entitlement processes in accordance with CSU requirements. And Auxiliary Services Corporation will ensure that the facility is well maintained and adequately funded by maintenance reserves throughout the life of the agreement. Prior to execution of any commitments for development and use of the property, all appropriate related actions and documents, including the proposed key business points of the final development plan, will be presented at future meetings for final approval by the Board of Trustees. Chair Day, this concludes the presentation, and we'd be happy to address any questions others may have.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Eaton, I'm sorry, President Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Eaton, Mr. Relier. Any questions from board or committee members? Trustee Garcia.
Yes, so I think this is true, if I'm remembering correctly, for all of the projects being presented. There's in the statements that we received, it indicates what will be coming forward in the future with respect to each of those. I didn't see any reference to the fact that we would be presented with the key terms of the contract, but I understand that is definitely one of the items that needs to come forward. So was that just inadvertently?
No, you're correct, and that's kind of the point I was making, that the key business points of the development plan is essentially in the parts of the agreement will be presented to this body for final approval at a later time.
Right, but it just specifically the contractual terms.
Yes, that includes that as well, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fagan?
So ultimately, this will not be a cost to the CSU, even though we put up the funds initially?
We do not put up the funds initially. The market survey, which was done for the campus in total, that's a cost of ours, and it fits into this. But with respect to the particular development, no. All of the costs of the financing, the construction, that's all borne by the developer.
So I just want to compliment you all. I think this is a great way to go. So, President Garcia, good job. Steve.
Thank you, Trustee Fagan. Other questions? I too would add my compliments. The innovation of P3s are critical, as we just heard about in some of our earlier items. Two quick questions, just so it's on the record. One, I know we've talked about these before, but the selection of the developer will be through a public competitive process. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think if I recall correctly, right now the campuses has vetted on a qualified basis 5 possible developers. Upon approval here, they will then move forward in developing an RFP for final development plans, and they will evaluate those bids in consultation with council as well as Chancellor's Office staff.
Thank you. And then one last question. I believe I heard you say that the property is currently owned by the auxiliary?
That's correct.
So you have the campus leasing the property from the auxiliary?
Correct. The campus currently leases the full property from the auxiliary right now.
So will that ownership or fee title of that property transfer to the campus, or will it remain with the auxiliary?
It will remain with the auxiliary, and the auxiliary will enter into the ground lease for the parking area, the surface parking, with the developer who will develop the improvements on that property. But the underlying lease and the land will stay with the auxiliary.
Okay.
The building is intact. That remains 100% leased by the campus for its educational use.
Understood. Okay, very good. Any further questions or discussion? If not, this is an action item, so if I could get a motion to approve it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, only committee members can vote. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item 4 is another action item requesting conceptual approval of a public-private partnership faculty staff housing development project at California Polytechnic State University San Luis Obispo. Again, Executive Vice Chancellor Steve Relier, President Jeff Armstrong, and Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton will present the item. Steve?
Thank you, Chair Day. This is the second of the three items I described earlier, and as you were outlining, this is a public-private partnership at San Luis Obispo, specifically for faculty and staff housing. We're going to start with President Jeff Armstrong from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, followed by Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton on this item. So, President Armstrong.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Relier. Today I seek board approval to proceed with concept development for a privately financed, constructed, and maintained housing project. The proposed project would enhance the university's ability to recruit and retain faculty and staff and provide a partial solution to the significant need for workforce housing in the city of San Luis Obispo. This project will provide an attractive living alternative for our employees, affiliates, and members of the community at large. On-campus housing would provide the following benefits to campus: housing for faculty, staff, graduate students, alumni, and visiting scholars; mitigation of campus traffic and parking impacts; and third, revenue that can be allocated to support our academic mission and campus priorities. This site is designated for workforce housing on the university's master plan maps. Our proposed master plan places a high priority on pursuing various alternatives to address workforce housing needs for faculty and staff, including existing neighborhoods and new construction on campus. The proposed site appears to be the most suitable for the university and the community. It provides close proximity to campus and the academic core, and it is near the main entrance on Grand Avenue, providing easy access to freeways and major roads, as well as downtown businesses. During the month of January, the university engaged in a robust outreach strategy to educate and garner support from the San Luis Obispo community for this project. I met with various media outlets, including the editorial board of the local newspaper, which yielded an editorial in support of the project. Additionally, we met with elected officials and government leadership of both the city and county of San Luis Obispo, the Chamber of Commerce, and a variety of other community groups. Further, targeted communications were issued to the campus community and university constituent and advisory groups. Overall, the project has been well received by the San Luis Obispo community. In addition to supporting the university's core mission, this project will benefit the city of San Luis Obispo and its workforce. The proposed workforce housing project will allow the university to house a significant number of faculty and staff on campus, something not possible today. The university is also pursuing opportunities to construct additional student housing with the goal of housing 2/3 of our students on campus. The workforce and student housing initiatives will serve to alleviate community concerns by effectively reducing the housing shortage in the community. And as you'll hear from Robert, the project would be developed through a public-private structure that avoids campus debt, minimizes risk, and produces considerable non-state revenues for the campus. Thank you in advance for considering this project.
Thank you, President Armstrong. The project proposes to construct up to approximately 420 apartment homes on an undeveloped 15-acre site at the southeastern boundary of the campus, situated near the main entrance on Grand Avenue. In March 2015, the campus contracted with a third-party consulting firm to conduct market analysis of potential demand for the development of faculty staff housing on campus. Based upon the analysis, including inquiries with numerous reputable development firms, there appears to be strong demand for such a project. The campus anticipates entering into a ground lease with a private developer. No campus funds will be committed to the project, and the developer will be fully responsible for the financing, construction, and management of the project during the term of the lease. The ground lease will be structured to ensure that the campus receives rents based upon the fair market value of the site at minimum. The developer will also be responsible for funding all costs associated with the environmental and entitlement processes in accordance with CSU requirements. And the campus will ensure that the facility is well maintained and adequately funded by maintenance reserves throughout the life of the agreement. Prior to execution of any commitments for development and use of the property, all appropriate related actions and documents, including the proposed key business points of the finalized development plan, will be presented at future meetings for final approval by the Board of Trustees. Chair Day, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you again, each of you, for your presentation. I would like to again compliment you. I know we've done a few of these before. I hope we see a lot more of them. I had a chance to speak to our former chairman, Trustee Linscheid, recently about his ideas on workforce housing at each of our campuses and taking advantage of the communities in which they are so that we can help address this issue. It relates to, again, a previous discussion that we've had about cost of living and salaries and benefits for our faculty and staff. So I think it's a great opportunity and compliment you very much. Trustee Morales and Trustee Taylor.
I just want to commend President Armstrong for reaching out to the community to test and win support for this project.
Thank you. Trustee Taylor.
Thank you very much. Looks like a terrific project. I had a chance to go up to San Luis Obispo about a month ago and take a look at the site. I'm a big believer in workforce housing, as so many of our campuses are in very expensive places, and it's hard for our staff and faculty to afford living near a campus. And when you can build something that's walking distance to class, that's walking distance to the office, makes tons of sense. Robert, what's the sense of timing on this? When will the RFP go out? When will we have a sense for what the project ultimately, the winning bid, what it looks like, and when will it come back to the board for approval?
I don't believe they have a short list yet of developers. I think they've reached out to development teams. So I do have some staff here. Maybe I can just get them to address that. Is it?
I think I can answer it.
Oh, maybe President Armstrong, go ahead. So on the timing of that.
Drew, you go ahead.
Yeah.
You'll get the better answer from Drew Zachmeyer.
Drew Zachmeyer from the campus, who's been working on this. Thank you, Drew.
Great, thank you.
So subject to your conceptual approval here today, we will be issuing our RFQ, RFP this month. And if we stay on track, we would expect completion of the project by 2019.
You said completion by 2019?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fagan?
Well, now that I complimented President Garcia, I can't leave President Armstrong out. So I would just like to say, great job, President Armstrong. And so I don't have to speak again, I'll do an anticipatory congratulations to President Wong.
Thank you, Trustee Fagan. Other questions or comments? I did have a question, President Armstrong. I know you mentioned significant cash flow back to the campus. I mean, 420 units, that's a pretty large project. What are your initial estimates as to net proceeds to the campus on an annual basis?
Well, first, the project is in two different tracks. So there's 10 acres and 5 acres. If we engage the full project, it will be around 15 acres. The amount of revenue depends on the winning bid, of course. We have some estimates, but we're really reluctant to put those out there, as it might influence the future.
I retract that question. Yeah, we want to get the best bid from the private sector. So good point.
But the value is significant, and we look forward to the results being on our high side of the estimate.
Good. Trustee Norton.
When the student housing was built across the street on Grand Avenue, as I recall, it provoked considerable amount of concern from the neighbors. This project, you think, will run more smoothly, less smoothly?
I think it will be considerably less than the concern with the student housing. We will see we have seen some concerns, but it's much lower than what we observed with the student housing project, and we have strong support from the majority of the city council members.
Trustee Simon.
Thank you. Can you hear me? You in your presentation you talked about the housing opportunities bearing what the market would bear, and I'm wondering and curious. I know that again this is the very beginning of the process, but affordability for faculty and alum and et cetera with families. I'm wondering what the market will bear and what the rents, not necessarily tangibly, would be, but what would be the efforts to even make these units affordable throughout our system. Faculty and student housing is still very expensive to the population, both students and for faculty. So I'm curious.
That's a good question, Trustee. We are not using the phrase affordable housing. This is workforce housing, And I want to turn to Drew Zachmeyer again to clarify and answer your question with more detail.
So as the president states, it will be a market-driven rate, but what this project brings into the marketplace is really product that virtually doesn't exist today, and that is rental apartments that are of a nature that professionals, particularly our employees, would like to live in. Most of the rental apartments in the San Luis Obispo community would best be described as student housing. And so it really just, we have almost no vacancy in the market. We've got around a 2% vacancy rate in the apartments that are in the marketplace. So even though the rates will be market driven, just by virtue of bringing rental apartments into the market, they will be relatively affordable.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, this item is an action item. Again, only committee members can vote. With that, can I have a motion?
Move it.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Moving on, item 5 is an action item requesting conceptual approval of a public-private partnership, Junior Giants Urban Youth Academy at San Francisco State University. Mr. Relier, President Les Wong, and Mr. Eaton will present the item. Steve?
Thank you, Chair Day. This is the third of the three items I described earlier, and it is a public-private partnership plan for the development of a Junior Giants Urban Youth Academy on the San Francisco State University campus. President Les Wong will brief you on how the project fits in with the campus mission, and then Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton will provide some additional information about how the project will be developed. President Wong?
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Relier. San Francisco State is proposing to partner with the San Francisco Giants Community Fund, who is the nonprofit fundraising arm of the baseball team, and Major League Baseball to establish the Junior Giants Urban Youth Academy on our campus. The academy would provide athletic and educational programs for underserved children and their families. This collaboration will advance the missions of both San Francisco State and the San Francisco Giants Community Fund to provide positive encouragement and support for youth who live in neighborhoods with limited opportunities and avails them to expand their horizons in pursuit of higher education. In this partnership, there are many potential research, teaching, and community service opportunities for faculty and students at San Francisco State. Locating the Urban Youth Academy on our campus will help strengthen the educational pipeline of local communities to San Francisco State. It will also enhance the recreational facilities utilized by San Francisco State students and student athletes. With frequent interaction with university students in a campus setting, the city's youth will be exposed to the importance of higher education. For the San Francisco Giants, the Giants Community Fund, and San Francisco State, this partnership represents a shared vision for community building and social justice. It will establish a youth baseball hub in San Francisco that offers programs and services primarily to low and moderate income youth who live in the inner city and the surrounding communities. This partnership also provides a mechanism for introducing these youths and their families to a university campus and a pathway to a college education. One of the goals of the Urban Youth Academy at San Francisco State is to provide a space where first-generation, underserved youth can not only develop confidence, integrity, leadership, and teamwork skills, but can also discover their particular path to a college education. Representatives from the Giants Community Fund and San Francisco State are in the process of developing a definitive agreement outlining the rights and responsibilities of both parties and subject to approval by the Chancellor and the Board of Trustees and the Giants Community Fund. With our core commitment to the values of social justice, the educational access and excellence, San Francisco State looks forward to advancing the mission of serving the youth and residents of the Bay Area through this very unique opportunity to partner with the San Francisco Giants Community Fund. I want to thank you in advance for consideration of this project, and I'll now turn it back over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton to present the details of the project.
Thank you, President Wong. The proposed project would establish the Junior Giants Urban Youth Academy, an athletic and educational program for underserved youth and their families on the San Francisco State University campus. The project would construct a youth-sized baseball field and a 16,500 square foot structure housing a learning center, covered infield, and batting cages on a 2-acre site along the western boundary of the campus. The site currently is occupied by tennis courts used primarily by outside community groups. The project will also provide for the improvement of the existing varsity baseball and softball fields on campus for shared use by the university and the Junior Giants Urban Youth Academy. The campus anticipates providing a license to the Giants Community Fund to construct the facilities described above and entering into a long-term ground lease for the constructed facilities, which will be owned and maintained by the campus. The approximate $5 million cost of the improvements, as well as the replacement cost of the existing tennis courts, will be funded by the Giants Community Fund. The lease agreement with the Giants Community Fund will include fair market value rent for the land and will cover all operational and maintenance costs of the facilities, including utilities, as well as the cost of improving the baseball and softball fields. Prior to execution of any commitments for the development and use of the property, all appropriate related actions and documents, including the proposed key business points of the finalized agreement, will be presented at future meetings for final approval by the Board of Trustees. Furthermore, prior to presentation of the final development plan to the board, San Francisco State University will provide information to the Chancellor, which will demonstrate the following. First, the partnership will provide a substantial and clear link of the partnership to specific academic programs which furthers the educational mission of the university, in addition to cultivating a higher education pipeline for students. Secondly, the valuation of the project site for the determination of ground lease rent will consider land in the immediate vicinity of the university at its highest and best use to determine the market value. Third, the ground lease revenue produced through the partnership will meet or preferably exceed campus costs to construct, operate, and maintain the proposed Junior Giants Urban Youth Academy, as well as any campus cost to renovate, operate, and maintain the existing varsity baseball and softball fields to be used jointly by the campus and the Junior Giants organization, and ancillary costs including but not limited to campus police services, security, parking, and janitorial services. Fourth, joint use of existing campus varsity baseball and softball fields by the Junior Giants Urban Youth Academy will not significantly affect use of the fields by university programs or athletics and not adversely affect the condition of the fields. Fifth, partnership agreements will contain provisions to indemnify CSU during construction, operation, and maintenance of the project. Sixth, the ground lease will include a provision requiring an assessment to be provided to the Chancellor every 5 years, which verifies the expected academic, pedagogic, and advancement benefits of the project to the campus, and that ground lease revenue received by the campus exceeds campus costs. The ground lease shall also enable CSU to cancel or renegotiate the ground lease if such verification is unable to be obtained. And finally, the project will be consistent with provisions of the Memorandum of Understanding dated October 30th, 2007, between the City and the County of San Francisco and the California State University relating to transportation measures. Chair Day, this concludes the presentation. We'd be happy to address any questions.
Thank you again, each of you, and President Wong, thank you for your creativity and innovation, again, serving a unique need locally and a critical need for the youth especially, so I compliment you on that. We have questions or comment? Trustee Garcia?
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding. I think as I was reading this, with respect to the first two projects, there will be funded by non-campus funds. But I think, if I understood correctly, that with respect to this project, San Francisco State, there will be some campus funds that will be needed for some of the renovations of the tennis courts. I just wanted, can we clear, I wasn't clear, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, there
Can
will
you
be
clarify?
some costs that the campus will incur related to the maintenance, some of the utilities, and as well as the baseball and softball fields. But the idea is that the rents that come from the Giants Community Fund will cover that cost.
So it's just it's an upfront cost that the campus will have, which then they will recoup that cost through the rents.
That's correct. Some upfront and then some ongoing as well. But both will be recouped through the agreements with the Giants Community Fund.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Other questions? I suspect my Bay Area colleagues will be there at the groundbreaking or ribbon cutting. Elliot, maybe we could do something with the Padres down in San Diego too. I don't know. We have a motion on this item?
Move it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all again for your hard work on these P3s. Moving on, item 6 is another action item requesting approval to issue trustees of the California State University system-wide revenue bonds and related debt instruments to refinance and restructure State Public Works Board debt. Mr. Relier and Mr. Eaton will present the item.
Thank you, Chair Day. As you know from from past discussion at board meetings, CSU now has the authority to refinance the State Public Works Board bond debt on existing facilities with debt that is now would be issued by the CSU. At its November 2015 meeting, the Board of Trustees heard an information item regarding plans to refinance and restructure this debt, the State Public Works Board debt. Today, this action item seeks Board approval to issue system-wide revenue bonds and other related debt instruments to refinance and restructure the State Public Works Board bond debt and outlines the key parameters that will be utilized to structure the final transaction. Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton will describe the proposal. So with that, I'll turn it over to Robert.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Relier. As we presented at the November 2015 meeting of the board, the basic goal of refinancing and restructuring the CSU's State Public Works Board bond debt with CSU system-wide revenue bond debt will be the generation of savings for the CSU. That is, reduce the amount of debt service that is required to be paid, thereby freeing up cash flow to meet other system needs. As we shared with you in November, this can be achieved in 2 ways. The first is refinancing debt at lower interest rates than what is currently being paid. The second way is by restructuring and extending the amortization of the debt to generate cash flow benefits in the near term. Extending the amortization will also adjust the relationship between the average life of the debt and the average life of the underlying assets. As a reminder, however, when evaluated in current dollars, i.e., that is on what we call a net present value basis, the extension of debt can have an adverse impact on savings because of the amount of increased debt service that must be paid in the long run. The cash flow benefits that are generated by this transaction will be used for capital projects focused on the CSU's deferred maintenance and critical infrastructure backlog. Because of the size, complexity, and timing of this transaction, and most significantly because changing market conditions between now and the sale date will significantly influence the composition of the transaction, a final structure will be determined closer to the sale date. However, based upon the work that has been done thus far and taking into account the CSU's risks, potential risk, policies, and needs, staff has developed these key structuring parameters that will guide us as we get closer to the sale date and finalize the structure. First and foremost, not all of the bonds are currently suitable candidates for refinancing and restructuring. The dollar amounts presented here may change, but the main point is that approximately $773 million of the currently $980 million outstanding Public Works Board bonds are good candidates for immediate refinancing and restructuring. The balance of the bonds, however, about $207 million, are not good candidates due to their existing structure and cost. Therefore, we do not envision refinancing or restructuring them for the foreseeable future. In terms of extending the amortization, we would not extend the repayment of principal more than 40 years from the transaction date, and the refinancing debt may have an interest-only period of up to 10 years. The use of shorter-term or variable rate debt will be a key component in generating savings due to the opportunity to lower the overall cost of borrowing compared to an all long-term fixed-rate structure. However, the use of shorter-term or variable rate debt also increases the risk that at the time of refinancing of those shorter-term instruments, the interest rates will be considerably higher than compared to an all fixed-rate structure. And therefore, it may reduce the estimated savings and cash flow benefits. Therefore, in order to balance the risk-reward trade-off, we are targeting the use of shorter-term or variable rate debt at a range of 25 to 50% of the transaction. As we presented in November, we will target net present value savings of neutral or better. That is, when measured in today's dollars, the cost of the total transaction will leave the CSU at least no worse off. And working within these parameters and based upon current market conditions, the bottom line is we would be looking at cash flow benefits of at least $200 million over the next 10 years. Taking into account the key structuring parameters and the potential market conditions, we are requesting approval of a not to exceed amount of $1.2 billion. This amount assumes the refinancing and restructuring of all of the outstanding State Public Works Board bonds in order to provide maximum flexibility in the event financial or market circumstances change and provide an opportunity to beneficially refinance and restructure all of the bonds. However, as I just noted a moment ago, we expect that the actual amount of the debt issued will be less based upon the key parameters we have presented here in the near term. At the November 2015 board meeting, we indicated that the annual state general fund appropriation and student tuition fees would be added to the existing system-wide revenue bond program revenue pledge as allowed in our capital financing legislation. However, based upon legal, financial, and operational considerations, the annual state general fund appropriation will not be added to the system-wide revenue bond program pledge. Only student tuition fees will be added. In terms of next steps, staff will continue to work on finalizing the structure with the goal of closing the transaction in mid-April. Staff recommends approval of the financing as presented in the item. Chair, that concludes the presentation, and we would be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Steve. I know this is a very complex and complicated agenda item. We have a lot of important issues on our agenda today, but this is a very, very significant. I'd like to highlight just the fact that in your presentation, by doing this refinancing and restructuring, we have the ability to hopefully capture $200 million. I understand it could be as high as $350 million.
That's correct.
Of cash flow savings over a 10-year period. That is not insignificant, nothing to sneeze at. And it will go hopefully directly to our critical deferred maintenance on all of our campuses. So that's a huge chunk of money. I compliment you, and I know you've worked hard with, especially my vice chairman, who's really done a lot of the hard work here with you guys as well, and our outside financial advisors. So really kudos to you. And at this point, Vice Chairman Taylor, any questions or comments?
Thank you. As you might imagine, when we spoke about this in November, I'm a big supporter of this particular concept. I have described it as a rare win-win-win for everybody. Although that's not completely accurate. There is one loser in this. The loser are people who currently hold high coupon bonds that we're taking away and replacing with low coupon bonds, i.e. Wall Street investment banks would prefer us not to do this because frankly they make more money by us doing nothing than by us restructuring these deals. So it's imperative for us at a time when interest rates are near historic lows. When I say historic, I mean for decades, the municipal curve has flattened so much that we can really hammer home some savings here and drive monies into our campuses for deferred maintenance. And importantly, for taxpayers and students who are really paying the bills on these bonds, it costs them nothing more and indeed probably saves the money over time. So I would encourage you to vote yes on this motion.
Thank you. Trustee Kimball? Need your microphone.
I'm glad to hear Trustee Taylor say that, but I just wanted to go over some things with you again because this is not my field. So to put it in terms, say simple terms with the existing bonds that we have, if let's say we're going to make the analogy to, I have a house and I'm going to refinance the house and I have a 30-year loan, I have 15 years left and I refinance for another 15 years. At a lower rate, that's definitely a win-win, right? But so if I'm taking, I'm almost, let's say I'm 20 years out and I refinance for another 30 years, I'm extending the life of the loan at a lower rate, but in the end, I probably will be paying more money, right?
That's correct. Maybe to use your metaphor, imagine that a young couple takes out a mortgage, they buy a house, and they choose to amortize it over 15 years. Which is very common, okay? The interest rate is lower, but the payments are higher because you're amortizing more principal, okay? And let's say 5 years into that mortgage, they decide to have a family. One of them, the husband or the wife, or it could be one of the husbands or one of the wives, since this is the 21st century, decides that they're going to stay home and watch the kids. And so there's income that they're not going to have. And they decide, let's restructure our mortgage. Let's redo it on a conventional 30-year basis. It'll lower the payment for them, so it helps in their immediate cash flow. But in that case, yes, they will end up paying more interest in the long run. But that's an example where they're making the trade-off. And I
Right.
think that's a perfectly rational reason as to why you might extend the debt out. And so it's similar here. For us, the trade-off is, yes, we will pay longer in the long run, but we get the immediate benefit here in the near term. We mentioned in the item it's 200 million, but based on the current market, that's just a working parameter over the next 10 years. As Trustee Day alluded to, right now under the current market conditions, we're looking at about 350 million of savings in the first 10 years. So hopefully that helps put it in terms maybe that most people are familiar with, say, with their home mortgage.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Trustee Fagan?
I think I understood that from Trustee Taylor, but I just want to make sure. So the bondholders have no choice.
That's correct. In the tax exempt market, there are always calls built into the bond structure. And so these bonds will be completely defeased. So an existing holder of a state public works board bond will simply get his money back with any accrued interest. But they don't get the right to say, no, I don't want to do that. Assistant Vice Chancellor, Vice President Eaton referenced some bonds that don't work. And those are taxable Build America bonds. In the taxable market, it's a little bit more constraining. They have something called the make-whole call, which is much more expensive for us to execute. So while we're giving the authority for that, probably doesn't make sense for this transaction, but for the tax exempt world, we will save a bundle by executing sooner rather than later.
So the process, though, is we're selling back the bonds, or we're buying them back. We're buying them back, and then we have to put them out again to sell?
We're
Or
issuing
is
new
it-
debt.
Or do they automatically?
We're issuing new debt, taking the proceeds, purchasing an escrow of usually treasury securities, and that escrow then pays the existing bondholder.
Do those transaction fees amount to anything significant?
The transaction fees are all incorporated in the savings calculations. So the savings calculations.
Yes, I was just going to make
mentioned
that
are
point.
net.
All the upfront costs, everything is paid to all the parties involved with structuring the transaction. So attorneys, including the costs that go to the investment banks to help us structure. That's all factored into our savings assessments. And so the figures that we have that's built in, so it's included in there.
I think Trustee Garcia and Chancellor White.
Okay, thank you. With respect to the savings, it's great, 200 to 350, and I know it's over a course of 10 years. But did I understand that this is going to be restricted to deferred maintenance, or could those funds be reinvested in the system in other ways, or is it restricted to the deferred maintenance and facilities?
Well, the plan is, with the bonds having been for capital purposes, the plan is to use these savings for capital purposes, the deferred maintenance and critical infrastructure backlog. So that's the primary reason for doing this at this stage. So, but let me also, Steve, if you want to comment as well on the use of this in the game plan. So.
Yes, Trustee Garcia, as you know, when we had the state of California give us this, we called it new authority, but of course a huge responsibility for funding our buildings. One of the questions we all asked ourselves is, gee, now that we have this authority without the money to pay for necessary deferred maintenance and new infrastructure, where are we going to get the funds? And this is one of the answers that, and it's also dealt with in the financial task force report, that by doing this, it does create this cash flow over a 10-year period. And depending on how we manage it, if we manage it smart, we could really put a really big dent in our highest priority needs on the campuses. We have huge needs on the campuses, as you know, in deferred maintenance, but also infrastructure needs that are very important to the campuses. So that's our thinking right now. But there's no legal restriction on how we use it. Now, again, one thing you have to remember is, even though it is over a 10-year period, these are still really one-time funds. They're not recurring funds. It's not like the state or someone giving us money that would then recur. So we can't really put, recurring. We're not going to put this into recurring types of expenses. But given that size of savings over that decade, it could really help CSU a lot.
And just as a quick follow-up, I appreciate that clarification. So there's not a legal restriction on how we use it. So potentially we could take some amount. Obviously, we want to be able to address the deferred maintenance issues, but we could take some amount, reinvest it differently if we chose to do so.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would just concur with what Steve just said. I mean, I think the risk that we took on when the governor and the legislature handed us these new authorities, this is in part a way to mitigate that risk going forward. But I also strongly support the idea of not spending one-time money on ongoing costs, and I think capital and deferred maintenance is a logical direction.
And the other,
Oh, sorry.
I'm
Steve?
sorry.
Steve, I have a thought.
Oh, just the other thing I'd mention is that this also does have a connection to another thing that this board has talked about, and that is getting the authority from the state, having state law change that once we get funds like this and we put them in reserves for necessary capital projects and deferred maintenance, we want, of course, that money to be protected from inflation. And so we're asking the state to change that law to allow us to have a conservative, balanced portfolio that we can invest this money in and then address these capital needs. So this goes hand in hand with that investment authority as well.
Chancellor White.
Well, I appreciate the conversation. I just want to say that the point that was made just recently about these not being recurring dollars in light of the other conversation we've been having about compensation for our employees, et cetera. But it is exactly these types of things that will help over time this chronically under-resourced university actually create more capacity for students and for our employees to serve California's future. And so it is a significant opportunity for us to be more successful.
Absolutely. Any further questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve? We have a motion and a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again, Robert and Steve. And I believe our final item is item 7, which is an information item providing an update on the Sustainable Financial Model Task Force report. Executive Vice Chancellor Relia, will you please begin?
Thank you, Chair Day. This is a brief information item. As you recall, at the last board meeting, we talked about the draft of the Sustainable Task Force report. And I'm not going to go into that in depth as I did that time, but I thought it would be useful to talk about some next steps. If I could have the next slide, please. So just an update on how we'll approach the recommendations in the report. If you recall, the purpose of the report was to provide an overall context on all of this stuff, like the connection we just made between the State Public Works Board debt and the Investment Authority are two things that are touched on in that report. This report, the whole idea was to be information for the board, but provide that context of where these connections take place and how we provide a more sustainable financial future for the university that will support students and allow us to be somewhat more in control of our destiny. If I could have the next slide. So in some cases, as you recall, there were a lot of different recommendations in the report, and they really had different characteristics. In some cases, you had recommendations that could really be implemented pretty quickly in the short term, and then others that had a much longer time frame, much more complicated. Some recommendations clearly would require formal proposals back to this board before we acted on them, and particularly those with significant policy implications, while other recommendations really we can do operationally under the Chancellor's current authority. Several of the recommendations will require broad consultation, including students, partners both within and outside the California State University, and a lot of these recommendations will require specific approval of agencies or groups in Sacramento. Next slide. Examples of those recommendations and initiatives that have a near-term horizon include changes proposed to the resource allocation model, which is an internal process on allocating resources to our campuses to support their priorities. Capital financing changes are another initiative that will be implemented on the short term, very similar to the discussion we just had about the State Public Works Board debt. Next slide. Initiatives and recommendations with long-term implication strategies include increasing our investment in philanthropy and alumni engagement, which we discussed earlier today, and the future development and enhancement of student support systems, including the enhancement of data-driven decision-making. Both of these initiatives are already the subject of focused attention by system-wide committees, and the board has received early reports regarding progress in these areas. A longer-term recommendation that will likely require board action is the development of a more robust process that provides options for students who are CSU eligible but unable to attend the campus that they want to because of enrollment capacity. So that's done in a very ad hoc, labor-intensive way now, and the idea would be to make that more routine and robust. Next slide. Examples of initiatives requiring board action. So here, these would be actions that would include things like we just talked, the three third-party partnerships, which sounds a little awkward to say, and I apologize for that. But we did have 3 of them. And those types of actions will come back to the board. Likewise, changes to our debt programs, restructuring, refinancing, those types of transactions will come back to the board for consideration. Other recommendations, including the proposed market-based non-resident tuition and consideration of any other tuition changes, will require broad consultation, including discussions with students, the state, and the board in the context of the annual budget review and policy matters. Next slide. Other recommendations have a longer-term implementation schedule and in a few cases require an annual consideration. So, for example, working with the state to help manage escalating costs of health care and pension programs, which we discussed earlier this morning, is a very complex process and really requires our attention. But it is a long-term gain. Likewise, working with our education partners in California to improve student preparation is a process that's been underway for a number of years and will continue under the leadership of Executive Vice Chancellor Lauren Blanchard's team. Next slide. The timeframes presented here are intended to provide just a guideline for these implementation strategies. As I mentioned earlier, some recommendations and initiatives can be enacted in the next few months. Some we're doing at this board meeting today. Others will take longer time to explore, analyze, and execute. Next slide. So what does success look like now that we have this report and we've established a number of ideas for initiatives and proposals? Well, first, the bottom line is that success really means a more robust and sustainable financial model to ensure the success of our students and provide our faculty and staff with the tools and resources to optimally serve our students in the future of California. Success milestones in the current fiscal year include proposals like we saw today for expanded third-party partnerships, significant dollars saved through restructuring, as similar to the State Public Works Board that we just described, and the campus allocation methodology, which we've already begun enacting. Next slide. By next year, we expect proposals for a number of areas, including alternative campus schedules, perhaps a proposal on a pilot for year-round operations, greater investments in the philanthropy infrastructure, and as I mentioned a little earlier, getting the law changed to allow us to have a greater investment authority. Proposals for non-resident tuition and a possible new model for tuition are in this time frame, as well as increases in our advocacy in Sacramento to support the university going forward. And I'll just mention that it is very important that these all be viewed not as in any way replacements for state support, but as a necessary adjunct to increase state support to the university. Next slide. Let's see. No, that's correct. July 2018. Within the next couple of years, we expect substantial progress in implementation and recommendations, including those on this slide, including expanded research funding, enhancing our IT support system infrastructure, more dependable funding streams for capital projects, and developing the targeted reserves for those high priority projects, changes in state laws to help reduce non-value added bureaucracy, programs in place to help with feeder schools in providing better math and English preparation, and as I mentioned earlier, having a more robust way of redirecting campus students who are applying to campuses who are impacted. Next slide. Additional areas in this time frame is to, again, look at health and pension costs, look at business intelligence, business analytics systems that will help us make better data-driven decisions, improving the infrastructure for financial aid, and improving the state university grant program. And as I mentioned, we'll probably start seeing some of the results in our investment right now in terms of increased philanthropy. Next slide. So going forward, we'll provide regular updates to the board on the status of these recommendations with periodic in-depth discussions regarding very specific recommendations and initiatives like we did earlier today, and particularly those that have broader policy implications requiring formal board action. We'll commence work shortly and begin engaging partners where appropriate, and a lot of those partners are going to be in Sacramento and Washington. Going forward, as information and action items arise, the report will provide a context for board consultation. So really, before I conclude, this is really the end of my presentation, but I want to again express my sincere appreciation to the members of the task force who committed a huge number of hours to developing this report. In particular, I want to thank the co-chairs who provide great leadership, President Hirschman and President Marishta, and also the substantial contributions of members including Trustees Stepanek, Trustee Brewer, Trustee Alexandrian, CSSA President Herron, and Academic Senate Chair Filling. With that, I will conclude this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And again, I too would thank and compliment the work of the task force, a very important work for the future, and compliment you also in the sensitive and careful, thoughtful way in which you're telegraphing or raising some pretty complicated and perhaps controversial issues that need to be addressed, but we'll hopefully be doing it in a careful way over the course of many months and sometimes years, so that the system can get on a more stable financial footing. So appreciate the update. Any questions or comments from the committee or other trustees? Trustee Garcia?
Thank you for the update. I'm glad, obviously, that we're continuing to have this conversation. Just a couple of questions to clarify. On page 10 of the report, we're talking about year-round operations, and we heard from the public comment the concern around ensuring financial aid support for students participating year-round. Do you anticipate that we would have any concerns or issues with providing financial aid on a year-round basis?
You know, it's a great question, and I will give you a very probably not a perfect answer, and then invite any of the. Fortunately, in the room today, we have a number of the task force members here, some of whom probably would give you a better answer than I would. But I think one of the things, Trustee Garcia, that is going to be important, first of all, is to recognize that year-round operations and any kind of alternative scheduling on campus is going to be very differential depending on the campus, because campuses have already in place a lot of important year-round activities on the campus. So it's not as if campuses just shut down during the summer and aren't active. Many of our campuses are very, very active. So this is going to be, there's not going to be a cookie-cutter solution that we could do for all the campuses. It's likely we will probably target one or more campuses for pilot projects. And it's also very likely that the only way it'll work is to address the financial aid funding, for making sure that we have enough funding for financial aid, but also enough funding for faculty salaries, for staff, or all the other elements of running a campus in a 12-month kind of thing. So it's not something you can just do and say, well, we'll just stretch our existing resources and just make it magically happen. We are going to require investment, but hopefully we can target campuses where this is kind of an optimal solution, and get and be able to convince Sacramento that this is a really good way of investing money, because you do have an infrastructure that's there in place. So you're talking about an incremental investment to perhaps get a lot of value.
Okay, thank you. Because I guess what I would want to make sure is, because you're right, I mean, the campuses are, utilized more beyond, the traditional semesters, but I would hope that if we're going to be offering classwork, coursework for our students who rely on financial aid to get through the rest of the semesters. They're going to need financial aid. So I just want to make sure that that is part of our evaluation and assessment of, the ability to go year round from an academic standpoint. I think they're just tied together. So I just want to make sure that
It
that's
is
gonna be part
absolutely
of
the
our
case.
effort.
You're right, they're tied together. By the way, President Marishta, who I'll ask him to turn on his mic because not only was he co-chair of the task force, but he has he actually has some experience with year-round operations and the pros and cons, and he knows both the challenging parts as well as the rewarding parts of this. So, President Marishta, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Relier. There will be financial aid. The idea is to provide financial aid. It'll be a matter of it being extended into the full year. One of the areas that we had previously was in terms of Pell Grants. For a while, Pell Grants were provided during the summer, but that was changed by federal law. So they took that away. So we go to Washington, D.C., we lobby for that, and a number of the universities across the country lobby for that. We also want, in terms of the Cal Grant, whether it could be extended into the summer also. So there would be seeking financial aid. One of the issues with the state-supported summer is because we've reached capacity on all of our campuses and the funding from the state for our FTEs targets have not increased, a number of us went off of state-supported summer. So we had a very robust state-supported summer, but we were well exceeding our target, our budgeted allotment of dollars by 7% of our enrollment. So we actually ended our state-supported summer. So I believe what the students were speaking towards were we went to a lot of self-support summer. So going back to state-support summer would probably be cheaper for the students in terms of tuition, and then hopefully we can provide all the financial aid and work in Sacramento, work in Washington, D.C. to make sure that we have some financial aid for students.
Thank you, President Yurita. So I guess what I'm just trying to understand, though, is that obviously if we envisioned, and I like the idea of piloting, obviously test some locations and see how well it does, but I guess I want to make sure that we would envision these pilots would, include the financial aid for the students to participate and then have an eye towards any kind of further implementation to be, we have to be able to fund students through financial aid if that's what their current need is. In order to really, I think in order to, really call this successful in terms of year-round access for students. So I appreciate the comments and the clarity there. I also had a question on page 9. It wasn't clear from the description here on the improving administrative systems. What is there a cost? What's the cost there?
Yes, and so this is kind of a large category, but there are a lot of systems where we have underinvested and are paying a price for not having an adequate investment. A project that Vice Chancellor Lamb and I are very closely monitoring is to come up with a much more robust HR system. I mean, we have a HR system that is not adequately enabled right now. It happens really on 23 instances. It's not as cohesive as a lot of our other administrative systems, say like the finance system, which is a single instance with a set of business practices and data definitions that's very tight and does allow us to have really good information. So, the information we get to make decisions, informed decisions about resource allocation and other things are only as good as the data that we're given, right? And we need to have good data, and you're not going to get good data when you have systems that are kind of fractured, that you don't have standard data definitions and standard business processes. So these all do require an investment, and the investments will be different depending on what the system is. And some are going to be a lot easier than others. Some will be very complex. I just happened to pick an example of one that's going to be very complex. But the benefit to the CSU of having solid data and standardized business practices and limiting to single instance, not only does it position us well to make better decisions, it positions us for whatever the next jump in the evolution of these systems is. So, as you know, a lot of companies are going to the cloud, right? Because that ends up being a much more economical way of doing this stuff, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do all this stuff internal. So, but we can't really get there where we are today. We need to take that interim step of standardizing on business processes, having much more robust systems, and then it positions us well for whatever the next thing is.
Yes, no, and I completely agree with the points that you're making, but do you have an estimate, a range of what the actual cost will be for these system enhancements, like over a 5-year period to, what are we looking at in terms of the financial cost?
Yeah, I can't say what the financial cost is in total for these things. We have a pretty good idea that, for example, for our HR system, it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $7 or $8 million a year for over a series of maybe 3 years or so to do a system like that. That's probably the most expensive of all the system improvements. Others will be much easier and much shorter time frame and much less costly. Again, that investment ends up becoming very important to the CSU going forward, and we'll only take these on when we're absolutely sure that the investment is worth the return.
I have Trustee Spanik and then Trustee Taylor.
Thank you. As a member of the task force, I wish to first of all thank you for putting me on it, because it was a very exciting opportunity to contribute to what is going to be a very significant document for the future, long-term future of the CSU. And I also want to acknowledge and thank all the efforts by the many people both on the task force and off the task force, both in putting it together and in doing reviews to improve it. That said, the last formal meeting of the task force was December the 9th, and this was a live document that continued to evolve in various ways since that particular time. Because of the far-reaching ramifications of this particular document, I would suggest that there be some sort of a last formal meeting or something, consultation with the task force for us to be able to review this final language. Thank you.
Trustee Stepanek, it's an excellent suggestion, and I think probably in my eagerness to get this done in this time frame, after the last board meeting and putting in some additional clarifying language and examples, I did not give the opportunity for the task force to have that last session, so we'll do that. That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Taylor, then Chairman Monville.
So I got all worked up this week in reading this again, and throughout this, I wrote time and again, deadline, question mark, lack of urgency, exclamation point, and then you go and present that thing that lowered my blood pressure right away.
I did a Vulcan mind meld on you, Trustee Taylor.
I think you did. And I'm thrilled to see milestones. I'm thrilled to see July 2017, 18, et cetera. I can't wait to engage in those discussions. In fact, I would ask our board secretary, Michelle Kish, Michelle, that presentation was a little bit different than the one in our packet. Can you make sure that we get a copy of that one that lays out those timelines in such detail, and then I'm sure we will have additional conversations on those as they come up. The one thing here on the SUG, the State University Grant, which is an awful lot of money, you have short-term recommendations, long-term recommendations, some of which I think are great, some of which I think kind of nibble at the edges and don't really get to the heart of the problem. But in the short-term, Chancellor, I would turn to you. They say one of the short-term recommendations is to ask you or your designee to set discretionary parameters for SUG usage as part of the budget allocation process. Are you on board with that recommendation, or are you still noodling on it? Where do you come out?
Well, I think to your point, Trustee Taylor, is the $600 going on $700 million that are involved here. When you think of the overall operation, is that we have to do more than nibble around the edges. But I think we have to find a place to rethink that element, but at the same time take care of the point that Trustee Garcia was saying, and that is our students who come from the lowest of the economic strata continue to have full access to higher education. And so we want to do some modeling and some noodling on playing with the parameters and modeling this out. So it is both a quantitative analysis of identifying resources that could be redirected to other permanent ongoing costs, as well as what it would mean for the students' abilities who come from the lowest strata to access higher ed. So we have work to do on it, but the concept is right. If we don't actually have the courage to take this one on, I think we will be ending up nibbling around the edges.
Yeah.
This is a big one.
It is exactly how I feel, and I encourage you to keep it on the front burner and not let it slip to the back.
Chairman Monville.
Thank you, Chair Day. Again, I want to compliment staff. I know at the last meeting we threw a ton at you, and I think you've done a nice job synthesizing and getting kind of all of that reflective here. I would also support that after the board's feedback today, that reconvening with the committee, I think Trustee Stepanik's suggestion is a good one, and make sure that there's one last go around. A couple things that I want to continue to probe and ask staff to think about a little further, particularly in a couple of areas. The administrative systems, the strategic procurement thoughts. In particular, I learned actually yesterday of some issues that may be impeding some of our campuses as it relates to sustainability issues, particularly as it relates to water savings and the emergency of the drought because of our procurement procedures. To me, when there's an emergency order on drought, we ought to be clearing the decks and making things happen so that we can be responsive to the state and be responsive to the times. And so I want to make sure that as we are considering our procurement policies, that we're taking into effect our responsibility to the environmental health of the state and are doing our part as it relates in these times of crisis, as things like the drought. So Peter and I had an interesting conversation on that last. Trustee Taylor and I had an interesting conversation on that last night, and it seems to be a no-brainer, but that happens in big organizations. So it gives us an opportunity to take a chance and look at how we do that. A couple other items that I wanted to note in the area under what is the area of capital financing. I certainly appreciate the concern about the belief of the inconsistency of a student facilities fee. I'm still not convinced that has been fully flushed out so that this board could make a true policy decision on if that's a good idea or a bad idea. We always tread lightly and hesitate anytime we're talking about student fees. But I don't think there's been a robust discussion here. And more concerning to me here is the language in here that makes the assumption that the state is going to do its side of the obligation, which heretofore it has not. And so to limit discussions on an assumption that has yet to produce fruit, to me, seems to be something that we should explore further. And I would continue to be willing to at least have the conversation. I'm not an advocate at this time because I don't think I have enough information, and therein lies my struggle. I would also like to call attention under the area of managing costs as a reminder to my board colleagues that as we begin to look at reducing costs and finding ways to restructure our ongoing costs, particularly in healthcare, that meant much of that will require the cooperation of the legislature. That even when we have the ability to restructure some of these items through the collective bargaining process, that the law of California and the statutory requirements of this board will require legislative cooperation. So be mindful that these will not be decisions that we can turn quickly on, that it's going to take some time and some consultation. And we may want to include in there in the language so it's clear to all of the publics who will be reviewing this document and looking to the board for clues as to where we're going, that we acknowledge that there is this obligation and this partnership that will have to happen with the legislature to implement some of these changes. So I just want to be mindful of that. And then finally, and I appreciate both Trustee Taylor and Chancellor White's comments on the SUG issue. I would also encourage, I brought this up the last time, and I continue, like Trustee Taylor, want to push the boundaries here a little bit. I don't want to be nibbling around the edges. We need to be having some substantive, difficult conversations. And as I mentioned the last time, and I will mention again, the conversation, particularly as it relates to SUG for graduate programs. I think there is a real argument to be made about what the statutory obligation of this board is as it relates to offering a baccalaureate degree versus a master's or other degree, and how's that change how we view SUG. That being said, I support Trustee Garcia's view as it relates to making sure that we are being sensitive and mindful of our most vulnerable students. But I do think we have to get all of these issues on the table. And it certainly seems to me a student working on a master's degree is a much different category and classification than a student who's working to seek their first degree. And it's something I think we can continue to push the boundaries as we discuss. So with that, excellent job. Look forward to seeing this come forward, ready for adoption in May, and appreciate the hard work.
Thank you, Chair Monville. We have another question, Trustee Garcia.
Yes. Sorry. I just, in going through my notes from the first presentation on this, especially since Chair Monville mentioned the managing cost, I recall we had a conversation, and the earlier report included reference, especially with respect to building greater efficiency to reduce cost. But I don't see that, and I apologize if I missed it, but I don't see it in the materials. Is there a reason that's not in here? Just
It should be in here, and unfortunately, I can't put my hands on it. But that should not have in any way come out, and I can absolutely guarantee you we're going to be very, very focused on that and managing costs and efficiencies, and we'll be coming back to the board on that as well.
okay, great, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, Chair Monville, that concludes the Committee on Finance.
Chancellor.
Trustee Day, I think listening to the trustees' comments on individual pieces of this makes me think about the fact that at the end of the day, for all of what we're trying to accomplish for California requires resources. And so let's take the facility fee question. It's interesting to me that on one hand, by highlighting and designating a fee that actually is a dedicated purpose, was to be very clear and transparent to everybody, both within the CSU, students, faculty, staff, alums, as well as the folks in Sacramento, that those dollars are going to do that. If we don't have a fee for facilities or any other thing, but we still have to incur that cost in order to take care of our facilities, it's going to become sort of part of the overall overhead, if you will, undesignated, that is supported by student tuition or the state appropriation. There is no free lunch in running a university. And so when people demand or have expectations about more of this and more of that, which we want to fulfill, we have to have a resource, a revenue stream to do that. And that's what this project was about. This project was about trying to be very transparent and honest about what the real life costs are of running a university, being very mindful of a cost that is achievable for all Californians' willingness to do the work, but also provides a predictable and sufficient revenue stream to run this amazing system. And that's what this is about. And I don't want to lose track of the big arc. So we don't have a facility fee or some other fee so designated, but that cost has to be incurred. That cost is going to come out of someplace. And otherwise we won't be able to do it.
Thank you, Chancellor. Well put, and a great conclusion to the committee. And look forward to Trustee Campbell.
Oh, I just wanted to mention the managing costs section is page 17. It is in there.
Yeah, no, the section is in there, but my question was specific to the efficiencies to reduce costs.
Oh, I didn't see that.
They're talking about it in the committee. Let's do it yet. Anything further on before we wrap this up? Okay, Chair Monville. This will adjourn the Committee on Finance. Chair Monville, thank you.
Are you teasing me?
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Trustee Day. Trustee Farrar, will you please convene the Committee on Educational Policy? I want to remind my colleagues we have a very important fourth item on this agenda. So if we can move through the first three in good time, I know our colleague Margaret would appreciate that. So.
Fine with me. All right. Thank you, Chair Monville. Will the Committee on Educational Policy please come to order? We will now invite public comment preceding the educational policy agenda items. We have two speakers. Our first speaker is Jennifer Egan, CFA President, East Bay. All right. She has passed. Our second speaker is Lillian Tays, CFA Political Action Legislative Chair of Los Angeles. All right, our speakers have passed. Okay, it is now time for the committee to consider today's consent agenda. Would any committee members wish to remove item 1 for separate discussion? Okay. May I have a motion to approve all the items listed on the consent agenda? Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The items listed on the consent agenda are approved. Now we move into the discussion agenda. The committee has 3 items on today's discussion agenda. Item 2 is an information item regarding academic preparation. This item will be presented by Lauren Blanchard, Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, Edward Sullivan, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Research and Resources, and Carolina Cardenas, Director of Outreach and Early Assessment. And Dr. Blanchard, could you please begin?
Thank you so much, Trustee Farrar. Today's item provides an overview of the CSU efforts and outcomes related to the academic preparation of our entering freshman class. The CSU has a long-standing relationship with K-12 partners to ensure high school graduates are well prepared for the rigor of CSU coursework. We recognize that preparation really does matter. The opportunity to achieve and demonstrate academic preparation occurs through high school and as the students begin their study at the CSU. By working with students well before they consider application to a college, we are able to ensure that they are provided with a strong academic foundation from which to begin their academic pursuits at the CSU, and in some cases at other colleges and universities. In the spirit of access, prospective CSU students are presented with multiple opportunities and modes by which they may demonstrate college readiness in English and mathematics. These opportunities begin with the Early Assessment Program, also known as EAP, and continue into a student's first year. I will now turn the presentation to Carolina Cardenas, Director of Academic Outreach and Early Assessment, who will provide us with an update on CSU outreach efforts, including EAP. Caro?
Thank you, Dr. Blanchard. CSU outreach programs are trusted partners of local school districts and community colleges statewide. Our outreach efforts emphasize the importance of academic rigor as a critical foundation for future collegiate study. In 2014-15, the CSU provided programs and activities to over 1.2 million K-12 grade students. These programs are developed to align with local, regional, statewide, or federal needs. Through these and other efforts, the CSU continues to collaborate with local school districts, the California Department of Education, and the State Board of Education in providing support and useful information about college readiness and preparation to all prospective students. These strong relationships ultimately led to the development and acceptance of the EAP. The Early Assessment Program utilizes the new Smarter Balanced Assessments in English and mathematics to provide students and their parents an early indication of their preparation to take college-level English and/or math courses upon enrolling at a CSU. In spring 2015, 418,000 high school juniors received communication about their readiness for college-level work, along with appropriate advice on additional preparation that the student may need. The CSU also works with K-12 faculty to continuously improve student preparation. CSU faculty developed the Expository Reading and Writing course, also known as ERWC, a senior curriculum to prepare students for collegiate writing and analytical thinking. Over 800 high schools have adopted the course as part of their regular academic offerings. In addition, CSU mathematics faculty are now engaged with high school and community college faculty to design a similar 12th grade mathematics course. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Ed Sullivan, Assistant Vice Chancellor from Academic Research and Resources, who will share information about our fall 2015 freshman class. Ed?
Thank you, Caro. This past fall, the CSU welcomed the largest entering and best prepared freshman class in our history. The Early Start program contributes to that preparation. Early Start was established in 2010 by the Board of Trustees. It requires students needing additional preparation in mathematics or English after high school graduation to begin coursework in the summer. In summer 2015, more than 26,000 students began preparatory coursework, with almost half enrolled in both mathematics and English. While not a requirement of the program, nearly 6,300 students were able, through Early Start, to demonstrate readiness in English or math, with a small portion completing preparation in both. Early Start efforts resulted in a 6 percentage point improvement in demonstrated readiness in both English and mathematics between high school graduation and the start of the fall term. In the last 5 years, our entering freshman classes have continued to grow. From fall 2011 to 2015, as a result of the early assessment program and Early Start efforts, the percentage of new freshmen beginning their fall term college ready in both English and mathematics has increased by 8 percentage points. We anticipate that further transition in K-12 curriculum will continue this trend in the coming years, and we look forward to that. Dr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ed and Cotto. Our faculty, staff, campus leadership, and educational partners in K-12 have worked hard continuously to improve the academic preparation of our prospective CSU students. Through EAP, Early Start, and the cumulative efforts along that continuum, the CSU meets new students at whichever academic point they arrive and then support them toward their degree. Our campus faculty and leadership value and prioritize academic support efforts, including writing, tutoring, and supplementary education support that augment the development of critical core academic skills throughout the student's academic career. We continue to have more to do as we work to ensure that every student has the opportunity to achieve their academic goals. The CSU remains committed to ongoing efforts to improve academic preparation and expectations in K-12 during our Early Start program, in developmental education, and throughout the student's academic career. This concludes our presentation, and we are happy to address any questions that you might have at this time.
All right. Well, let me thank you first for the informative update. We appreciate all of your work on this important issue. And we will take questions now. Trustee Eisen.
Thank you. Well, it does sound like the results are encouraging, and if I'm understanding the materials from 2011 until 2015, there is an indication that more of our students, 8% more, are prepared in both English and math for college. But what I'm wondering about, and you said that Early Start contributes to that preparation, that was the phrase you used, and also that it caused the increase in, so what I'm always interested in this question of, there's a correlation, but does that mean that there is a cause and effect? But somehow from your analysis of the information, it sounds like you've concluded that the reason for this increase in readiness is the Early Start program. Am I understanding that right, or is?
I believe so. It's due in large part to Early Start. Prior to Early Start, there was no mandate that a student begin their preparation in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a student exited high school, if they weren't prepared, depending on campus policy, that student might not have encountered their first course to demonstrate preparation if they hadn't coming out of high school until the fall of the freshman year. Early Start has actually resulted in students being able to take courses that have both advanced them instead of having 2 layers of preparation to 1 layer of preparation, or in some cases actually to fully completing preparation requirements for entry. I don't know that I answered the question though.
So, and Dr. Blanchard said we still have room to grow, and that's always the case. But so we've seen an 8% increase in readiness over the course of 4 or 5 years, but we still have 49 or 39%. I wasn't math ready either, so 61 to 39 is the flip side of that. 39% who are not ready, and are we making changes or improvements or additions to our early start program that will accelerate the degree of preparedness of our students? Because we have another 39% to go, and if it took us 4 years to get 8% of the way, I'm wondering if you think that's going to accelerate in some way. Maybe this math course that we're developing will help with that. It certainly seems like it should.
And that's a great question, Trustee Eisen. I would say that we can take a lot of the responsibility, but we can't take it all, given the fact that we've got the Common Core and the more effective preparation of students as it relates to mathematics and also with respect to English, that we are seeing more and more. We hope to see more and more students that come in and don't necessarily need the kind of intervention that we're providing now with our early start and our early assessment program. So I want to make sure that we are being careful to attribute some of that to the fine work that's happening in the K through 12 schools. Now, have we arrived at where we need to be? No, we have not. And so as a result of that, in addition to some of the early start programs and early assessment programs, you'll see that a lot of our campuses host summer bridge programs to really make outreach particularly to students of color. If you were to look at some of the data, as I'm sure you have reviewed and the rest of the board members, those who are largely coming in underprepared are those that are from African American as well as Latino and Hispanic backgrounds. And so with that, you'll find that a lot of those summer programs, pipeline programs, really help tremendously in terms of getting those students prepared in such a way where they're really ready to begin on even footing with their peers once they reach our doors during the fall semester. And so I think that the third piece is, and I know Cato can speak more to this, but it's increasing collaboration with our K-12 partners as well as with our community college partners and better understanding how we can get our first-year faculty members that are teaching mathematics and English to partner more with high school teachers as well as those at the community colleges that are teaching mathematics and English to better understand where the barriers are, where the gaps are, so that we can work collectively to start filling those gaps as it relates particularly to acquisition of mathematical skills, quantitative reasoning skills, as well as just basic knowledge outcomes, ensuring that those students really get what they need in order for them to be effective once they reach our doors. I'll ask Cato to expand on that.
I thought you did a great job. But we do have quite a few collaborations going on right now. We're working closely with the State Board of Education and the Department of Education and our deans and the colleges of ed in terms of teacher preparation and teacher learning. And we're continuing to do this work as we move through the year, and particularly in math. I think that's one of the areas that you're concerned about. The Common Core curriculum actually created that was actually the curriculum that changed the most in K-12 was math. And so we're seeing a gap there, and we're trying to figure out ways to develop these partnerships so that we can address those issues as we move forward, math in particular.
Sure. I just wanted to say one other thing. I've been visiting campuses lately, as many of the presidents know, and I just want to say how impressed I have been with not only the efforts of the chancellor's staff, but on the campuses themselves, the incredible innovation that is going on any number of campuses, maybe all of them to that extent, to help solve this remediation problem, which has been gnarly and difficult and still plagues us. I just, want to commend the presidents for all the work they are doing on the ground. Some of it has been obviously very successful and can be, modeled around our great institution. Thanks.
All right. Yes, Trustee Carney and then Trustee Morales.
Thank you. So I have only a little knowledge, so if this is not an ignorant question, I apologize. But my understanding is that the Early Start programs at various campuses are developed at the campuses and implemented at the campuses, and that they vary from one location to another. I'm wondering how the evaluation is done. What are the metrics out of these programs, and how are best practices developed and that information shared?
My colleagues are telling me that it's probably best that we turn to some of the presidents who could help to answer that. We'll start with, was that Dr. Morales?
Yes. Thank you, Jane, for that question. We've done a number of assessment. Obviously, we want to take a look at where when students arrive for the summer program, where are they in terms of academic underpreparedness? And we determined, for example, last summer, we operated a residential program where 90% of the math students moved up at least one level in math. And out of 1,600 students, 1,000 students became college ready. In other words, they were now eligible to take GE math, 1,000 out of 1,600. We also, and we're following these students. So we have data on their performance after the first quarter. And we'll be looking at their performance after this winter quarter. We also conducted a robust student survey, and the students commented about a number of questions. For example, students, a significant percentage of the students commented that they now feel more confident in math than they did at the beginning of the summer program. I'll be more than happy. We just completed the final report of our summer 2015 summer bridge program. We call it Coyote First Step. It was a residential program. More than happy to send it to the members of the board. It's a really robust assessment instrument, but the assessment continues as we actually track these students relative to the students that did not have to attend the summer program because they were indeed college ready. I hope that's helpful.
Can I mention? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, my questions were along the lines of what Trustee Eisen asked, but I want to ask a little bit further about because I think more and more of our campuses are signing formal agreements with local school districts, and then the local school districts, particularly in the low-income areas, are getting additional state funding to address the very demo that you're describing that are performing less in math and so on. So do you see any increased focus in working with local school districts along the areas of math and critical thinking? Also, I would think that assuming Common Core, works, you would assume that that will help in this area. Is Common Core curriculum aligned with our goals in this respect?
Yes, I'll take that question, Trustee Morales. Yes, the Common Core standards and the new curriculum is actually very aligned with the expectations of higher ed. And we've had both our faculty committees on math and English look at that and agree to the curriculum and we're all in the same place. And it's the first time I think that we're all aligned in K-12 and what the expectations are. So that was a good move, I think, by the state to adopt the standards. What you're referring to in the first part of your question is the local control accountability plans and the local control funding formulas. Absolutely. There is now an opportunity, I think, for our campuses to really partner with their local school districts in support of not just of accountability at the K-12 level, but continuous improvement, which is really what our work is all about, is how do we work with our colleges of education work on continuous improvement in the professional development, professional learning side of things in math and English. And the local control funding formulas actually allow us to do that. However, the partnership really needs to be well-grounded, and it has to be part of the local control accountability plan. So it takes a shifting of a paradigm shift, I think, on the K-12 side. They're not used to asking K-12 for support in this effort. So there's a lot of work still that I think needs to occur in that arena, and we're working towards that. In fact, we've had conversations with the Department of Education on exactly that issue.
Now, how are we also working to prepare our new teachers at our schools of education to be responsive to the Common Core curriculum?
So in that regard, we were actually ahead of the game when the Common Core state standards were adopted in English in particular. When we developed the expository reading and writing course, we actually aligned that course. That course was actually already aligned with the standards. And so up to date, we've trained over 14,000 educators and teachers in English to deliver this course in the way it was designed. And actually, it's now, as I mentioned in my report earlier, the course is now delivered at about 800 high schools. That has prompted the high school teachers to ask us to continue to do more professional development in English. And so we've developed these modules of English courses that are now dropped down all the way to the 7th grade. So what that's done is actually not only aligned us at the 12th grade level, it's begun to help us align all the way down to the 7th grade. And that's exactly what we hope to do in our discussions with mathematics, is continue that type of model and structure.
All right, I'm going to take Trustee Garcia, and then we really have, in respect for our departing colleague, we're going to move on to that item after this, unless there's any pressing questions. Okay, Trustee Garcia.
Okay, I'm not sure how pressing it will be, but I'm going to ask it since you gave me the floor. So I just wanted to follow up on Trustee Carney's question. She was asking, as I was understanding, how because obviously best practices have evolved from all of you using these different, I know everyone's using different approaches, but in terms of the best practices that you all are identifying, sharing that, how do you, because I think this has been like a question that many of us on the board have continuously asked in terms of how are you all sharing best practices in these different areas. So with respect to the remediation and early EAP, how is that being shared? I'm just interested.
I'll start, Trustee Garcia, with the fact that, and this goes back to Trustee Carney's question as well. There is no standardized approach to like the early start programs, but what you do find very consistently is the fact that the campuses are monitoring very carefully how these students are performing, not only within the early start program, but to ensure that they are successfully prepared for the successive courses that they will have to take either in mathematics and English. And so there's a heavy emphasis on data analytics to ensure that we really do know whether or not the kind of intervention that we're doing in our early start programs, and really even with our summer bridge programs, that they really are having the kind of impact that we really want to not only sustain them as they progress through their introductory mathematics and English courses, but even looking at more advanced courses as well. So I want to make sure that I establish that in terms of, yes, you won't find a cookie cutter approach to the curriculum or to the academic process that's used for these early start programs, but you will find a lot of consistency in the monitoring and the data collection that's occurring on the campuses. So answering your question directly, Trustee Garcia, is the fact that we spend a lot of time providing opportunities either through our provosts or as well as our faculty to come together and for them to be able to see the kind of programming that's happening on the respective campuses. I can tell you that through our provost meeting in particular, as well as with our Council of Vice President for Student Affairs, there's lots of discussions on what's happening, what's working well, not only with mathematics and English, but looking overall at academic support structures and academic support programs in order to ensure that they can, if they've got the infrastructure set at another campus, that they might be able to implement that as quickly as they possibly can and hope to see the same kind of results. The best example of that is supplemental instruction that we have seen, you've heard quite a bit about, which is more of like a peer mentoring program that's used. And that has had large success at some of our campuses. And once they were, our other CSU campuses were able to see that kind of success and understand the model that needed to be in place, you found far more of our campuses beginning to implement such programs. That's just one example, but we provide lots of opportunities for our campuses to collaborate. And really, it doesn't even have to happen directly through the Chancellor's office. They are talking amongst themselves and sharing best practices to make sure that each of the campuses can have that same level of opportunity to provide that kind of support to their students. You're welcome.
I just wanted to ask, everybody has the 4 and the 6-year graduation rates as these goals. Every campus has them. And I would think that, every campus has every incentive to figure out any and all ways to help their students reach, a degree as quickly as possible without any impediment. So that, I think, in and of itself is going to encourage the kind of collaboration and best practices sharing that you've mentioned, I would think.
Yes. I agree with you 100%.
All right. We are now going to move on to question 4, and then we'll go back, to discussion item 4, and then we'll go back to discussion item 3. And this item will be presented, it's an information item, again, on middle college high schools. And this item will be presented by Lauren Blanchard, Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, Trustee Margaret Fortune, Whitney Yamamura, Vice President for Instruction at Consumnes River College, and Jeffrey Armstrong, President, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And again, Dr. Blanchard, would you please begin?
Thank you again, Trustee Farrar.
Okay.
I have some colleagues that will be joining me shortly here. Take your time. So as you know, we often present updates on the efforts the CSU is undertaking to improve academic preparation, raise college graduation rates, and to close achievement gaps. Yet the Chancellor, in his State of the CSU address, also spoke to the role that our partners play in achieving these critical goals. Our elected leaders are key partners, as our K-12 schools, community colleges, and the University of California, and as our businesses, civic, and church leaders. In fact, in recent weeks, I participated in my first CSU Super Sunday as part of the African American Initiative Partnership. It is in this spirit that we explore many opportunities for CSU partnerships, and it's important that we remain aware of the many educational pathways from which our students begin. Today, we are fortunate to be able to present an emerging partnership model, one that brings together K-12 schools and community colleges to launch students toward their baccalaureate degree. Middle college or early college high schools allow students to simultaneously graduate with a high school diploma and an associate's degree, or transferable college credit through concurrent enrollment. Since the first middle college high school opened in New York in 1974, These students or these schools have provided a seamless educational continuum for students. Middle college programs address dual objectives of decreasing high school dropout rates while increasing college going and persistence rates, particularly among student populations which have been traditionally underrepresented in higher education. Such schools have expanded to 16 states, including California. Trustee Margaret Fortune is a leader in the development of this unique pathway in California. Today, Trustee Fortune has offered to share her experience in developing a new middle college high school in the Sacramento region as a demonstration of the innovative nature of middle college or early college high schools. Trustee Fortune.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Blanchard. I want to first say that I'm excited to be able to amplify a partnership that involves K-12, the community colleges, as well as the CSU in the region that is near and dear to my heart, and that is Sacramento. I want to acknowledge my partners in this work who are sitting at the table with us today. Eleanor Brown, who is president of the Sacramento County Board of Education. Sue Stickle, who is deputy superintendent of the Sacramento County Office of Education. And Whitney Yamamura, who is vice president of instruction at Cosumnes River College. And I'm so pleased to have a willing partner in Jeff Armstrong of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to elevate the cause, really, of African American students seeking access to the CSU. So with that, I want to give some policy background that the California Education Code provides for the creation of middle college and early college high schools in partnership with public community colleges and universities. This is an initiative that the California Community College Chancellor's Office has really been promoting among K-12 and community college partners. And it's something that because of that elevation of this particular innovation in education, that we really latched onto as a great opportunity for Sacramento. So these schools are specifically intended to focus on at-risk students by providing early immersion experiences in college classes and college culture. While programs have been available in other parts of the state of California, there's never been a middle college high school in Sacramento. And this partnership brings that to the region. The Sacramento County Board of Education recently approved a charter petition submitted for Sacramento's first middle college high school. I was pleased to be the petitioner in that case, and this school will be operated as a part of the network of Fortune School. I want to acknowledge my colleagues from the Fortune family who have come out from Sacramento. Could you please stand and be recognized? There they are. Wonderful. So I'm honored to lead this system of charter schools, and the schools are based on 5 pillars: high expectations, choice and commitment, more time, focus on results, and citizenship. And some highlights of what makes it work is that we have more time. We have a longer school day. Our middle school students, for example, are with us from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Another part of what makes it work is that we have a culture of high expectations. We expect that our students are going to be competitively eligible for college, and that expectation begins for them in kindergarten. And we are all in the institution on the same page that that's the outcome that we're going to get. In fact, we take over 1,500 elementary school students a year to CSU campuses, starting in kindergarten with their parents. And I want to thank all of the college presidents who have hosted our scholars. It's been tremendous to see kindergartners on the Sac State campus right alongside high school seniors who are visiting, and they kind of look at each other like, what are you doing here? Focus on results. We have a focus on data-driven instruction with instructional materials that are aligned to the Common Core standards that we've heard so much about. These are environments where we have small group instruction, where students are not, if you're not at 80% proficiency in English language arts and math, you're going to stay with us for intersessions that happen throughout the year for small group instruction with your teacher. It's not an environment where there is social promotion. And importantly, we actually, a good portion of our teachers come from the CSU, and in response to Trustee Morales' questions about what are we doing as a system as it relates to the Common Core, teachers now are coming out of the CSU prepared in the Common Core. And there is a real striking difference between teachers who were prepared before the Common Core and teachers who are prepared now. In our system, we also prepare our own teachers through alternative certification and all of our own administrators. And as a result of that kind of investment, our staff of teachers is 60% teachers of color, 30% of those are African American, and of our 6 principals, one of whom is here today, the principal of Fortune School, 5 of them are African American. So we are a talent magnet for people of color. We also invest in them, which is why we very strongly believe in developing talent, which takes an investment, but it also leads to diversity. So as a region, we have a keen focus on closing the African American achievement gap. It's something that I have been proud of the courage of the Sacramento County Board of Education to take on this regional initiative and say publicly that they're going to help African American students. Oftentimes that's not happening in our political climate in California, but it is happening in our region due to the courage of this Board of Education that operates on the county level. In addition, this school will provide unique opportunities through our partnership with Consumnes River College and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. These students are going to graduate from high school literally with half of their bachelor's degree done, cutting the cost of college in half. With that, I'm happy to have Whitney Yamamura, Vice President for Instruction and Student Learning here from Consumnes River College, to discuss their role in this project. Whitney?
Thank you, Trustee Fortune. I share your enthusiasm for the new school and for this model of cross-system collaboration. The idea of a middle school, high school, is for high school students to earn college credits that can serve as the final piece of a complete K-12 system that prepares students for college as early as kindergarten, effectively bridging a student's journey from a high school diploma to a baccalaureate degree. Consumnes River College is excited to be able to offer college-level instruction in critical areas such as science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Our faculty will work side by side with the K-12 educators to ensure an education that is robust and engaging, that both recognizes the students as individuals and their needs while holding them to high standards for college-level work. Of course, our goal is to encourage students to reach a bachelor's degree or beyond. More specifically, Fortune School students will earn an associate's degree at the same time they are graduating from high school, and then transfer at junior status to a university of their choosing. As a result, the CSU is a vital partner, and I am happy to turn things over to President Jeffrey Armstrong from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to share a bit about the partnership.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you, Trustee Fortune, for the opportunity to be a part of this exciting partnership. We're excited to partner with the Fortune Schools in increasing opportunities for your scholars. Sharon and I have been fortunate to visit Fortunes Elementary School in Sacramento. We were able to witness firsthand the quality and confidence of the students and teachers of Fortunes Elementary School. I would encourage as many of you as possible to visit and experience this culture. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo has offered to provide science-themed summer camps, field trips, and college advising to this new partner high school. We will also work with corporation and others to provide funding for science-themed summer camps, as well as scholarships and internships for students to attend Cal Poly. This opportunity builds on our existing relationship with Fortunes Elementary Schools, which we've cultivated over the past 4 years as part of Cal Poly's focus on diversity. Currently, 5th grade students at Fortune School take an overnight trip to Cal Poly for a hands-on science class taught by university faculty and students in the Learn by Doing Science Lab. I cannot tell you how much the visits mean to the Fortune scholars and to Cal Poly faculty and students. We look forward to their next visit, April 22nd. Fortune schools serve a population that is nearly 90% African American and Hispanic Latino, and our Learn by Doing Science Lab is a great place for students to get inspired and see themselves as researchers and engineers. Our belief is that by building early relationships with students and families and providing information and guidance on necessary preparation for STEM majors, we will impact the prospective students of tomorrow. We at Cal Poly are excited that Trustee Fortune has agreed to serve on our President's Council of Advisors, and she's going to be joining us at our biennial Baker Forum in May to participate in a panel on the importance of diversity in the workforce. With that, I'm delighted to turn things back over to you, Trustee Fortune.
Thank you, President Armstrong and Vice President Yamamura. I appreciate your involvement in creating this important bridge for students. And I'll echo Dr. Blanchard's remark that it is important to remain engaged in the work happening in the various systems of education. Today, 2 of our other educational leaders who I've introduced, Eleanor Brown and Sue Stickle, are joining us, and I appreciate their show of support and willingness to take questions from the board on this new partnership and policy area. Trustee Farrar, that concludes this report. We are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Trustee Fortune, and thank everyone for providing the board with this very exciting and wonderful new effort. We're going to take questions and comments, lots of questions and comments now. Let's start with Trustee Stepanek.
At the risk of getting in the weeds right away, I'm kind of curious, when a student graduates and they're getting this AA degree, is the AA degree actually from the community college?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that solves the, in a sense, accreditation issues.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Let's do Trustee Simon and then Trustee Morales.
Thank you. It's amazing what you've been able to do, and this board has obviously just deeply benefited from your brilliance. And so this being my first day as a trustee, to see what you have and will continue to create and the collaborations, it's worthy of more than applause. Thank you for being unapologetically fierce about supporting Black children. Thank you.
That's true. Trustee Morales.
Well, I want to say essentially the same thing to Ms. Fortune, but also to the school district because in the system because at least in Fresno you will not find that, and this is a school district with some 80,000 students at Fresno Unified, and when I took it up to that district a couple of weeks ago, they said we will not do anything special for any particular group. That's so sad and unfortunate when at Fresno Unified, where there's 7% African American, 56% of the expulsions and suspensions are to Black children. I think that, and to not do something focused on African American children, I believe, is just, anyway, it's just so unfortunate. Because something should be done, and I'm glad something is being done, and that the school district in Sacramento has the courage to do that.
Trustee Fortune.
I just wonder if Trustee Brown, you might speak to that, and what made this supportable for your board.
I would have to agree. It was a little difficult. And the emphasis, I think, on the board was repeatedly pointing out that we're talking about children and what's good for them, and not about adults and what's good for them. And that we had actually very little interest in how those good schools came to be. The important issue was, are they good schools that help children? And the Fortune system is one that we felt when we visited, that it is a whole system. It is not just one or two people who are following best practices. It's the whole system, which then changed the culture. I have to just say, you walk into the kindergarten class and this little guy or gal meets you, and you say, what's that number above the door? And he says, that's when I'm going to graduate from a 4-year college. And he truly believes that he can do that because the people there believe that if you provide the support, consistent and good support that children who are struggling need, that they will perform. And that's what they have done in the system. So in trying to counter the hours of discussion when this came up for a vote, we held very strongly to the point that where is the need and how are we addressing that need? And then that helped us then be able to say, all right, if you can do it, go ahead and do it. But right now, we see a system that worked, and we're not going to lose those children while we're waiting for someone else to come up and provide that. And it's an excellent program. It's easy to sell a good program. Yes, Margaret's exceptional and all of her people.
Trustee Brewer, thank you.
I just first want to say just wow, because that was such an incredible presentation, and those comments that you just made were so incredibly inspiring. And it's just such an incredible approach to the problem of educational equity in this country and in the state. And so thank you to all of you for all of the work that you do. And Margaret, we are just going to miss you so much because your vision and your passion for this is just unparalleled. But I do have a very quick, kind of more technical question, if that's okay. I was curious how the middle college format fits and aligns with the academic performance index, and what's kind of the accountability efforts that are in place to make sure the two of those are working together.
So the academic performance index is in suspension right now, and a new accountability system is being created. I think that the model that Margaret Fortune and the partners have proposed, I don't see how it wouldn't fit, because it delivers the instruction for the Common Core and supports the goals that California is trying to achieve for all students. So I can't imagine a scenario where it wouldn't fit. Okay.
Trustee Taylor.
Loved your comments. It's about student results, not working adults. And I'm so pleased that you were able to drive that home, and congratulations to you for keeping focus where it deserves to be. And while I was disappointed with Trustee Fortune's departure, now I'm downright depressed that she's leaving. We're going to miss you tremendously, and if there's any way you can come back one day, I think we'd all be better for it.
Thank you, Trustee Taylor.
Chair Monville.
Thank you, Trustee Farrar. I have, for as long as actually since before I knew her, I've marveled at the educational policy knowledge and expertise of our colleague, Trustee Fortune. She's forgotten more about educational policy than I will ever know. And this is a sign of what innovation and expectation can do when they meet. And I particularly want to take a moment to thank her for continuing her efforts. I think, as you see, though she won't be sitting with us at the dais, she's going to be playing an unbelievably important role for all of our campus presidents in giving us a robust pipeline of students that represent who California is. And that may, in fact, be more important than what you do around this dais, so I'll give you a pass. I also want to thank Trustee Brown for your courage. It is not easy to be unapologetic, to do the right thing for children. And kudos to you and your colleagues for having the courage to set aside some of the noise and say at the end of the day, it's about kids. And so thank you for that. I look forward to continue to see the fruits of this great partnership. I have no doubt we now have 23 campus presidents that are going to be competing for SB 1440 eligible transfer students who represent the best of California. And I just wish you continued success and appreciate your leadership in that regard, Trustee Fortune.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share what's been going on in the field on this issue.
And thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it. Trustee Eisen.
Well, I think we're going to have a few more things to say this evening about Margaret Fortune, but I also am depressed, but I am also thrilled to get this incredible glimpse that we've gotten today of what Margaret is doing in her day job when she's not with us, which is probably her day and night and weekend job. I feel like we have been fortunate to get as much of Margaret Fortune as we've had for the last 8 years, in my case 4 years. And more tonight, but thank you very much, Margaret Fortune.
Again, thank you on behalf of the board. That was an incredible presentation, and thank you. All right, we will now move back to agenda item 3, and this is a report from the Commission on the Extended University, and this item will be presented by Dr. Sheila Thomas, Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Extended Education, and Dr. Karen Haynes, President of the California State University, San Marcos, and Chair of the Commission on the Extended University. And you guys got jumped in your seats. Good. So, Dr. Thomas, could you please begin?
Thank you, Trustee Farrar and members of the board. The Commission on the Extended University periodically reports on the major contributions of extended education to the CSU and the state through innovative self-support programs that address state workforce needs. These programs operate without general fund support and help bring the resources of the CSU to the local community, region, state, and beyond. Today's report will highlight the important work being carried out through extended education in serving students and meeting workforce needs. Our report will be presented by President Karen Haynes. President Haynes?
Thank you, Sheila. Extended education serves a critical role supporting the CSU by increasing pathways and access to higher education and measured growth of program offerings that is evidenced. Today, we want to share with you how extended education helps students through all phases of life to achieve their goals, and let you hear directly from students who have benefited from extended education programs. Extended education brings the resources of the CSU to the local community, region, nation, and international markets. Self-support degree and certificate programs, courses, professional development, and personal enrichment opportunities are offered in face-to-face and online formats through convenient scheduling at times and places not supported by general fund appropriations. Student populations include regular university students, largely in summer session, high school students, working professionals, military, and students in remote locations, students re-entering the workforce, or university international students, or those who just love to learn. Extended education helps prepare students along their lifelong learning continuum, from early start and English as a second language programs to professional and advanced training to leisure learning. Let's hear from two graduates of an extended education degree completion program at Cal State San Marcos at Temecula.
My name is Amanda Maggio, and I was a student here at California State University San Marcos at Temecula, and I am now a full-time employee at Cal State San Marcos at Temecula.
Hi, my name is Brenda Anguiano, and I attended California State University San Marcos at the Temecula campus.
When I started exploring the college journey, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with my career path.
I've been trying to get my bachelor's in business for the last 23 years.
Then I came to Cal State San Marcos at Temecula, and it helped me decide that I wanted to pursue a career in higher education.
I knew when the program started, I knew when it was going to end. It was here in town. I didn't have to drive further away from my business.
CSUSM at Temecula gave me the opportunity to become a paid student intern and practice the marketing skills I was going to school for, which then led up to my employment at Cal State San Marcos.
I had a professor here that inspired me to follow my dreams beyond what I thought was possible. At one point, I didn't even consider finishing my degree was a possibility, and now I'm considering getting a PhD degree in strategic management.
Because I am an alumni at Cal State San Marcos at Temecula, I had such a good experience as a student that now I'm able to say I'm a full-time employee, and I'm able to help the students that come through the program to see that they meet their goals and their achievements as I did.
I am the first to graduate college, even after 23 years. And my entire family is so excited, and so am I, so they're all coming to my graduation. So if I can do it, anyone can.
Extended education serves a critical role supporting the CSU by increasing pathways and access, extending the reach of the home campuses. With 200 degree programs and hundreds of certificates, extended education is bringing education where students need it and helping to facilitate faster entry into new areas, with programs and courses offered at remote and urban satellite locations. Extended education has long been a leader in online education, currently offering 86 online and hybrid programs, enrolling over 4,800 students and producing over 3,000 graduates in 2013-14. In addition, increasing access to 35,700 state support students, primarily in summer session, 16,300 self-support students, and 12,500 professional development certificate students annually. Extended education units maintain strong workforce partnerships with public and private sector employers. Employers appreciate the quick response to training needs for new job trends, the ability to create entry-level vacancies through succession planning, targeting education for in-demand jobs, often beyond the regular university term. Extended education delivers training to over 130 employers statewide. Employers increasingly need workers with industry-valued skills and knowledge. Between 2010 and 2014, extended education awarded approximately 50,000 professional development certificates in areas like business, IT, healthcare, and trade and transportation. One such program is the STEM for Educators Professional Development Certificate Program offered through Cal State San Bernardino for K-12 teachers and students. This program was funded by the Commission on the Extended University and presented in partnership with school districts, community colleges, and the local business community. Let's hear from one of the middle school students who attended this program.
I had opportunity to attend STEM camp at Cal State
San Bernardino, where we built an underwater vehicle. Also, I learned about buoyancy, wielding, teamwork, and many other science principles. And overall, I had a great time being there, making friends and learning science. Now, I'm more interested in science than I ever was.
We hope the presentation has helped frame part of the story of extended education and the important contributions made in serving students and meeting workforce needs. Extended education adds value and helps the CSU increase service to the region and state. We would like you to hear from one final student who has benefited from an extended education program. Anthony Meza is completing the Veterans Education Program at CSU Fresno and will share brief remarks about his experience. Anthony?
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My name is Anthony Meza. I am from Orosi, a small rural town in Central California. My high school's graduating class was about 120, nearly all Hispanic, with parents doing farm work, such as my father, who passed away when I was very young. My mother worked in a dietary wing of a convalescent home, but became unemployed after my father passed. With Social Security income running low, I enlisted in the Army National Guard. To be honest, higher education was never really an opportunity in Orosi, but my mother insisted, and I knew it was what my father would have wanted. So I applied to Fresno State, but I did not get in. Shortly after being denied admission to the CSU, a letter from Dr. Daniel Bernard and Dr. Scott Moore came in the mail from the Division of Continuing and Global Education at Fresno State, saying I had been accepted into the Veterans Education Program through extended education that would allow me to attend Fresno State. I was in disbelief up until after the first day of class. It's still hard to believe that I'm taking 5 courses with other veterans. I'm learning study skills, library research skills, and most importantly, I'm experiencing real college courses at a real accredited university with real faculty teaching. This program prepares me to matriculate like any other student. I plan on getting my bachelor's degree in nursing and applying for the Army's Green to Gold program, where I can become an Army nurse. While doing this, they will pay for my next level education, where I hope to become a nurse practitioner. I was also fortunate enough to make it into the drumline of the Bulldog Marching Band last fall. I know people in extended education made some phone calls and everything worked out. I went from being denied admission to the university to standing on the football field for the very first home game, playing the drums in a Bulldog uniform. I cannot tell you how proud that made me feel. But the one thing that has humbled me the most is the dorm and meal plan provided for me. I had not only been sleeping, but living in my truck, as the 80-plus mile commute back and forth to Orosi each day caused financial hardships. Now I have a place to stay in the dorms and a meal plan provided for me. All of this is so unreal, but it's happening just like a dream come true. It's a blessing to all of us who have served our country and are lucky enough to know that Fresno State has created a program for us, people with limited educational opportunities and student veterans alike. I know many of my veteran peers were scared to even consider coming back to school. Someone has figured out a way to stop us from slipping through the cracks by creating these programs. To me, this is what extended education does. It fills in gaps and opens up opportunities that aren't available anywhere else. I'm lucky to have found this program at Fresno State, or rather, it found me. Now I'm a real proud Bulldog on his way to achieving my dreams and getting the education my parents have always wanted for me. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story.
Thank you for sharing that story, too.
Thank you, Anthony. I hope in just this brief time, we have been able to convince you that through the Extended University, we expand the access to students to quality degree programs. We meet workforce needs through career readiness retraining opportunities. Our reach is local and international, and we really find ourselves in the increasingly important places and spaces, many of which connect to the conversations we've had today about, with limited general fund support, how we can really do that kind of work. As chair of the commission since 2007, I have been proud of the work that the Extended University contributes to increasing this access, and it has been a pleasure to work with the people and the deans of extended education on all 23 of our campuses who create these kinds of opportunities every day in every way for students like Anthony. I would like to tell you before I close, because these are the people who might answer your questions in very much more detail. We have with us today Dean Deborah Barger from Chico, Dean Scott Moore from Fresno, Timothy Mozia from Long Beach, Eric Bullard from Los Angeles, Mike Schroeder, San Marcos, and Howard Evans from Pomona. Thank you, Chair Farrar. Sheila, the deans, and I are willing to answer any questions or take comments.
Thank you so much for this report on the immense scope of work of the commission. Thank everyone for coming. We appreciate it. And now we'll take questions and comments, starting with Chair Monville.
Thank you, Trustee Farrar. President Haynes, thank you for your continued leadership, not only the San Marcos campus, but playing this important role on a statewide basis. I'm grateful for that. And I just wanted to thank Anthony personally for his service. Tell him to keep up the good work. There's no doubt that this board and the Bulldog Nation are proud of you, so keep it up.
Trustee Morales.
Well, I'm just so impressed with the program, and also where this community from where this young man comes from, which is Orosi, is like many communities throughout the state, which is one of the poorest, economically depressed communities in the state. So it's just wonderful that, he has accomplished so much through this program.
Thank you. Trustee Fagan.
I'll chime in with all the same reaction. President Haynes is always bringing us really interesting things. I don't know when you have time to be at San Marcos, but between palliative care and extended education, it's great. I have two questions. One, you touched a little bit about the financial aspects. So could you describe how people pay for this, and is this self-sustaining or actually profitable? How that works? And then the other question would be interaction with online education, how that's growing, how it affects extended care or extended education, and are there lessons there for the rest of the system?
All right, let me start, if I can, Trustee Fagan, with the first question. It is by definition self-support. So even for degree-seeking students, it means we have to cover all costs because there is no general fund part of it. However, most of those degree programs are professional graduate programs. So students understand that there is a workforce demand and a job there. It also generally, those degree programs in self-support are also cohort modeled with a proposed and promised time to graduation. So students also understand that if they pay a little bit more, they get through in the allotted time, like our Temecula students, for example. Sometimes there are industry partners. Our Bachelor of Science and Nursing students in San Marcos, for example, we have industry partners with Kaiser Permanente, several of the health facilities who either provide the scholarships for the students or do loan forgiveness if they come and work for them. So there are multiple models, and yes, it is self-support, and students have to pay a little bit more, but obviously a lot of students understand the return on investment because they then don't have to travel necessarily, they don't have to leave jobs, they don't necessarily have to pay for childcare, and they may, in fact, then have, if they're in cohort programs, have a guaranteed time to completion and all courses offered. And that was part of the first part. I'm going to defer to Sheila for the harder part about the online.
Thank you. Well, extended education is a large part of the online community within the CSU. We've been leaders for many years. Obviously, we are also a large part of the Calstein Online initiative. Many of the programs that we currently have in Cal State Online are extended education programs that have been in existence for some time. So, but as President Haynes has said, within extended education, our program growth is really based on need and demand for the workforce. So our programs do grow based on those kinds of criteria. So, we're always looking for new areas that we can expand programs into and new audiences that we can serve.
Thank you. Trustee Kimbell.
I also wanted to say thank you to President Haynes, and just to go back to the presentation we saw also with Trustee Fortune's school and the work she's doing with President Armstrong. Today's been a long day, and there's been a bit of doom and gloom, so it gets you a little bit down. But presentations like this focus you back on what we're doing here, and whether it's with kindergartners who are already looking forward to graduating from the CSU, or the woman in the film who's middle-aged and took 20-some years to graduate and is thinking about a PhD. I think it's really what makes it worth it and worthwhile, and what we have to always focus on. So thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Trustee Abrego.
Yes, I just wanted to add that it's incredible the value you provide the campuses through your creative initiatives and programs. And young men, you're an inspiration. We're very proud of you.
All right. Thank you. Thank everyone for your presentation. It's very uplifting, as we said, at this time of the day. All right. And before we conclude the work of the committee today, I want to invite everyone to attend the CSU Council on Ocean Affairs, Science and Technology, which is known as COAST, and Water Resources and Policy Initiative Student Faculty Research Poster Reception this afternoon. Hope we didn't miss it, in the Wallace Room following the board meeting. Student researchers and their faculty mentors from each of the 23 campuses will be present to discuss their marine, coastal, and freshwater research as it relates to climate change, environmental quality, resource management, and policy development. And with that, Chair Monville, that concludes today's business on the Committee of Educational Policy.
Thank you, Trustee Farrar. I look forward to joining all of my colleagues and speaking with the students and faculty that are involved in the research that you'll get to see in the Wallace Room. And with that, our meeting will reconvene tomorrow morning at 8:30 here in the Dumke Auditorium. We are adjourned.